After nearly an hour, Lux stepped out of the conference room, leaving the riders of Noria's captain and the elders of Leaf Village behind. They were about to discuss matters of national importance, topics he had no interest in meddling with. Politics wasn't his domain. What truly interested Lux were the rewards promised to him, his mount and weapon from Boreas and Nevriel. Good thing I didn't claim any of my mission rewards yet, he thought, satisfied with his own foresight. The Abomination mission had offered 4 tempting options, but now that he had received an alpha monster egg, an honorary title, and a mount for Diablo through other means, he no longer needed to pick similar items from that reward pool. Now I just need to decide between the golden token of Guelvin and the 4 teleport scrolls. I'll wait. Better to use them when the timing is right. As he stepped outside, his gaze landed on familiar faces. Colette and the rest of the group were waiting across the street. Big brother. Colette waved eagerly the moment she saw him. Truth be told, she and the others had been worried, unsure of what awaited Lux behind closed doors with those influential figures. But seeing his relaxed expression put all their concerns to rest. "You guys waited for me?" Lux asked, genuinely touched. These dwarf children, his first companions in Elysium, had become like family. "It's not like we care about you or anything," Matthew muttered, crossing his arms. "We just came because Colette insisted. Don't get the wrong idea, all right?" Lux chuckled at the boy's thunder response. He could already imagine Matthew's future, completely dominated by a strong-willed partner. He turned to Colette and gently patted her head. "Good news. I'll be heading to the stronghold of Noria in 10 days. Want to come along?" Colette blinked, stunned. Then she latched on his arm, eyes gleaming. "You're not joking, right? We can really go." Lux nodded. "I asked Captain Boreas. He said you guys can come, as long as we stay out of trouble. We won't cause trouble." Colette beamed. Even my sister hasn't been in Noria. She's going to be so jealous." "Huh? Your sister hasn't been there? Why not?" "Because the stronghold is restricted," Colette explained. "Only high-ranking nobles and important officials can enter." Lux nodded, understanding. Colette often idolized her older sister, speaking of her with admiration, claiming she was beautiful, talented, and constantly pursued by suitors. She even joked about setting Lux up with her. Lux had always laughed it off, thinking Colette was being playful. Still, part of him was curious about the girl's famous sibling. "Well," he said, "any plans until then?" Colette smiled brightly. She was heading home to hatch the monster egg she had received during their adventure. She wanted her sister to witness it. Helen was doing the same, seeking her parents' advice about the carbuncle fur she acquired. The 3 boys, meanwhile, planned to return to Solais to sell the carbuncle's jewel. With the money, they intended to buy better gear for their upcoming graduation from Leaf Village. Everyone agreed to meet again in 10 days, each setting off on their shore journeys. Lux, too, planned to return home, not just to rest, but to hatch his newly acquired egg. However, he wouldn't be the one doing it. He had someone in mind, someone lucky. "Welcome back, Lux." Vera greeted him with a warm smile as he entered the training room. "Have you eaten?" "I was about to have dinner." "Come, join me." "I'm back, Grandma," Lux said, giving her a tight hug. "What's for dinner?" "Just rice porridge. I didn't know you were coming, so I didn't make anything special. Want something else?" "Nah, porridge is fine. I already snacked a little before coming home." They sat down and ate together. As they did, Lux recounted his entire adventure, fighting a member of a secret organization, battling the Abomination monster, and the rewards he had earned. Vera listened with calm eyes, though internally she was shaken by the dangerous trials her grandson had faced. "It's generous of you to share the monster drops with your friends," she said. "But remember to think of yourself too, Lux." "Actually, Grandma, there's something I need to tell you," Lux replied. He then revealed the unusual event after the alpha monster's death, how he'd received a reward directly into his soul book, bypassing the standard item distribution. Vera's brows furrowed. "That's odd. I've never heard of anyone receiving monster drops this way." She pondered silently, but no answers came. This was a phenomenon even she, with all her knowledge, couldn't explain. "Keep this a secret, Lux," she finally said. "This is a powerful ability, and people might envy or target you if they knew." You've essentially bypassed the need to argue over loot. Most parties divide rewards based on merit, which causes tension, but you're free from that now. Her eyes soften with pride and relief. With this, Lux won't be taken advantage of anymore. He'll have everything he needs to grow stronger. As Lux finished his tea, he looked at his grandmother with a hopeful smile. "Grandma, I need a favor." Vera smiled gently. "If it's within my power, consider it done." "I want to see Iris," Lux said. "I need her luck." Lux and Vera sat astride the broad back of Sophie, a majestic white hippopotamus gliding gracefully across the water. Their destination loomed in the distance, a towering citadel of learning and prestige nestled at the edge of the kingdom. They had arrived at the nearest relay station via teleportation from Wildguard Stronghold and traveled by land for a full day, then half a day more across the waters. Normally, such a trip would be long and tiresome, but with Sophie's unmatched strength and speed, their journey was halved. On both land and sea, she easily outpaced most mounts and boats. As the sun began to dip low on the horizon, casting golden rays across the calm surface of the water, Lux let out a soft sigh as the silhouette of their destination came into full view. "Barbados Academy," he murmured. "It's been almost a year since we last visited." "Indeed," Vera replied, her eyes also fixed on the magnificent structure ahead. "You were so focused on training and trying to pass the Elysium entrance test that you skipped visiting your stepsister. I imagine Iris still hasn't quite forgiven you. Be sure to treat her properly this time, all right?" Lux rubbed the back of his neck, nodding sheepishly. Vera's family was small but close. Her son, Alexander, and her granddaughter, Iris, were her only blood relatives. Lux, though adopted, was no less important, officially recognized as Iris's stepbrother and deeply cherished by Vera. "Ah, speaking of Iris," Vera added, her tone softening, "she sent me a letter 2 months ago asking when you'd visit. I told her you were still busy training, after failing again this year. Still, I promised we'd come before her birthday, which is only 6 months away." "Time flies," Lux said with a wistful smile. "She'll be 16 soon, and you'll be 17. Honestly, Lux, don't you think it's time we made her your fiancée?" Vera asked, only half joking. "My son's being stubborn, but if I give him a good smack, I'm sure he'll agree." Lux nearly choked on his breath. "Grandma, smacking a saint in the head might not go over well. Besides, Uncle Alexander only wants what's best for Iris. I'm sure she has other suitors, people better suited for her." Vera snorted, reaching out to ruffle his hair. "I only want what's best for both of you. And since I've been blessed with 2 amazing grandchildren, why not tie them together? Family bonds grow even stronger that way." Lux chuckled. "Let's talk about this again when I become a ranker." "Nonsense," Vera huffed. "By the time you rank up, some idiot might have already swept her off her feet. Iris keeps pestering me to keep all the girls away from you until she comes of age. If I left it up to her, she'd marry you the day after her birthday." Lux swallowed hard. His grandmother wasn't joking. She never joked about these things. And Iris, well, Iris had always been clear about her intentions. Even as a child, she used to proclaim that she'd marry him when she grew up. Back then, he'd laugh and promise to wait, a promise he now regretted. He made that vow when he was 12, and she was 11. And the moment she told Vera, the old lady had agreed instantly, overjoyed at the idea. It had all seemed like innocent fun back then. But now, naturally, Alexander had objected. Even though Lux was family in name, Alexander was extremely protective of Iris. While he didn't reject Lux outright, neither did he accept him as a potential match for his daughter. "If you just say yes, I'll take care of everything else," Vera said with a smirk. "Wedding plans and all." Lux laughed nervously, shifting his gaze to the enormous academy rising ahead. Barbados Academy was renowned as the finest military and magical institution in the western regions of Solais. Located at the heart of 6 neighboring kingdoms, it was where nobles and royalty sent their children to study and form powerful alliances. Like Wildguard Stronghold, Barbados Academy also had its own faction in Elysium stationed within the Regulus Empire. The 2 factions often collaborated, as Regulus and Azrael were longtime allies. I just hope Iris doesn't bring up marriage right away, Lux thought, beads of sweat forming on his brow. He genuinely liked Iris, more than he dared to admit. But his heart and focus were set on Elysium. There were too many things he still needed to accomplish. Besides, he sighed inwardly. Uncle Alexander would never make it easy for us. His relationship with Alexander was complicated. Civil, yes. Respectful, certainly. But not close. If Lux had to describe it in a word, it would be lukewarm. Iris, on the other hand, could make the famously stoic Alexander smile without effort. She had that kind of effect on people. "We're here, Lux." Vera's voice snapped him out of his thoughts as they neared the Academy's port. Sophie swam smoothly to the dock, catching the attention of onlookers with her regal presence. Once Lux and Vera dismounted, the white hippopotamus shrank down to a smaller, compact form, easier to manage in confined spaces. A young woman in a formal academy uniform approached and bowed deeply. "Welcome to Barbados Academy, Lady Vera," she greeted. Vera smiled warmly. "Alicia, it's good to see you. Tell me, is my hopeless son treating you well?" Alicia chuckled, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "The headmaster is fair, my lady. I have no complaints." Then her eyes shifted to Lux. "And it's good to see you again, young Master Lux," she said with a teasing smile. "You've grown taller since your last visit. And you've grown more beautiful, Alicia," Lux replied with an easy grin. "Flattery will serve you well," Alicia said. "Just don't let Lady Iris catch you charming other girls. You know how she gets." Lux laughed nervously. It seemed Alicia had been thoroughly recruited into Iris's camp. He'd have to tread carefully if he wanted to survive his stay here. Alicia turned back to Vera with a formal nod. "The headmaster is waiting for you, Lady Vera. Please follow me." Vera took Lux's hand, determined to keep him close. With so many noble daughters studying here, she wouldn't risk letting some random girl steal him away. Not while she was still alive. She had made up her mind. Lux and Iris were meant to be together. And if the world disagreed, then the world would just have to move aside.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
"Headmaster, Lady Vera has arrived. Let them in." Alicia bowed to Vera as she opened the door, welcoming the latter and Lux to enter. She remained outside because this was a family affair and she didn't want Lux teasing her after their meeting with the headmaster. As soon as Lux entered the room, he saw a man who seemed to be in his late 20s signing a few documents that were piled up on top of his table. With just a glance, one could tell that he wasn't an ordinary person. Although he did his best to suppress it, his overwhelming powers would fluctuate from time to time, causing the air around him to ripple. Contrary to his very young appearance, Alexander von Kaiser was already 55 years old. He had attained sainthood at a very young age, so his growth had drastically slowed down. In fact, Lux wouldn't be surprised if his uncle looked like someone in his early 30s once the latter reached 100 years old. This was one of the perks in breaking through the limits of the mortal realm in the world of Solais. When Vera and Lux sat on the seats in front of him, the headmaster placed the last document at his side and looked at his mother with a smile. "Mother, it's good to see that you are doing well," Alexander said. He then shifted his attention to Lux and gave him a brief nod. "Boy, according to my informant in Wildguard Stronghold, you once again failed the entrance exam to Elysium. You better man up if you want to have even the slightest chance of leaving your mark in the world." Lux's neck shrank because his uncle didn't bother to mince words when telling him that he needed to get good. Vera, on the other hand, chuckled when she saw this exchange. She knew her son's temper better than anyone else because she was the one that raised him. The fact that he even bothered to remind Lux to step up his game meant that he didn't want the half-elf to spend his time feeling sorry for himself. What Alexander wanted was for Lux to think of ways to improve himself, instead of moping like a useless bum. "I guess there is still hope in making my grandchildren become partners in life," Vera thought as looked at her son with satisfaction. The latter rolled his eyes at his mother, whom he could read like an open book. "I've received your letter, Mother," Alexander stated. "I don't think that you should spoil Lux so much. You even got him a rare monster egg for him to raise. How will he grow up to be an outstanding man if you spoon-feed him each and every time?" Lux lowered his head because he didn't want his uncle to see the smirk that was about to appear on his face. He and his grandma, Vera, both agreed that they should keep his entry to Elysium a secret for now. The two wanted to surprise not only the Wild Guard stronghold, but also Alexander at the next gathering of heroes by showing them how awesome Lux was. Once every 4 years, a grand tournament would be held in Barbados Academy to showcase the young talents within the western regions of Solais. All participants must be grade A Apostle or below in order to join this prestigious event. The Final Four would receive amazing prizes from the sponsors of the event. The 6 kingdoms that backed Barbados Academy often used this opportunity to gather young talents and bestow upon them the rank of nobility in order to bring them under their wing. Naturally, those who wished to serve a different king could take this opportunity to jump ship and start their careers in greener pastures. This had been the established rule since the tournament was created. If a ruler were to lose a talented individual, it just meant that the benefits they presented weren't enticing enough to make the young prodigies serve them. In the end, the only one that they could blame was themselves for being stingy. Vera wanted her grandson to step on that grand stage and show the world how awesome he was. That way, the past grievances that Lux had suffered would be washed away completely, which in turn would force everyone to look at him in a new light. "Don't be like that, Alex," Vera replied. "Lux was the one that found the egg while we were out camping. We just don't know what kind of monster is inside it. So I propose that we bring it here so that Iris could help him hatch it. A good tale, but I don't buy it, Mother. I won't force you. Now, where's Iris? I want to see my granddaughter." P. Alexander sighed as he rang a small bell in order to call for Alicia. The moment the pretty lady stepped inside the office, Alexander ordered her to escort Vera and Lux to the training area. The Barbados Academy followed a strict rule. All students could stay in Elysium for the duration of 5 days before they needed to return to the academy. Then they had to stay there for 2 days in order to give their reports to the academy. Just like Wild Guard Stronghold, the Barbados Academy had managed to create a kingdom of their own within Elysium. It was jointly managed by a council, composed of representatives from each of the 6 kingdoms, as well as Alexander, who served as the head of the council. As a saint, he held the strongest deterrence force that kept those who eyed the academy, as well as their kingdom in Elysium, that they had named the Barbados Kingdom, at bay. The purpose of the students inside the academy was to become stronger and help expand their domain. Only those who had attained the rank of apostle were allowed to enroll at Barbados Academy. They simply had no need for the weak to join their ranks, which was the main reason why Lux wasn't one of their students. As they neared the training area, Lux and Vera could hear the cheering of a crowd. A few minutes later, they saw 2 young combatants fighting an intense battle in an arena. Lux could tell that both fighters were at least the grade B apostles due to the intensity of their battle. Vera gave her grandson a sidelong glance to see his expression and was quite satisfied with what she saw. The half-elf was currently focusing on the match and watching the 2 combatants very closely. He was trying to put himself in the shoes of the 2 opponents and was trying to emulate how to best dodge or counterattack their moves. He has really grown up after entering Elysium, Vera thought with a smile. She then shifted her attention back to the 2 young fighters, who seemed to be fighting with their life and honor on the line as they continued to clash against each other. 5 minutes later, a young man with light brown hair and blue eyes raised his sword towards the heavens to declare his victory. The crowd cheered and gave him a thunderous applause. "Sir Lawrence is so amazing. Yes, simply the best among the other boys in his year. I feel faint whenever I see him fight. I wonder if he has a girlfriend yet. He doesn't have one. As if you don't know, he only has eyes for Lady Iris. I'm so jealous. She's such a lucky girl." The girls talked among themselves, while the boys looked at Lawrence in envy. He was simply too perfect in their eyes, and someone whom they aspired to be. "I have one, my Lady Iris," Lawrence said as he gave a respectful bow to a young beauty with light blue hair and eyes, which made anyone who saw them feel as if they were looking at a beautiful painting. Congratulations. Iris gave Lawrence an awkward smile. This whole battle started because the combatant that Lawrence fought had confessed his feelings to Iris a day ago. Iris politely declined his confession and told him that she already had someone in her heart. It should have ended then and there, but when Lawrence heard that someone had confessed to the girl he liked, he immediately challenged that person to a duel. Since the other guy had just been rejected, he wanted to vent out his frustrations, so the young man was more than happy to accept Lawrence's challenge. And so, this duel, which Iris didn't want to happen in the first place, happened and had turned into a spectacle for hundreds of people who were looking for entertainment inside the academy. Just as Iris was thinking about how to get out of this mess, she saw something red appear in the corner of her vision, which made her turn her head. It was at that moment when she saw Lux, who was standing beside her grandma, waving at her. "Brother!" Iris immediately shouted as she broke free from the crowd and left the handsome Lawrence behind with a confused look on his face. The crowd parted for Iris because she was a very important figure within the academy and was treated like a princess. "Brother Lux, I missed you," Iris said as she gave Lux a very tight hug, which the latter returned by lightly wrapping his arms around her waist. "I missed you too, Iris," Lux replied. "Have you gotten a bit taller?" "Have I?" "Yes. By a few centimeters, I think." Lawrence frowned when he saw someone whom he hadn't seen before hugging the apple of his eye. He immediately walked towards the stranger with the intention of knowing who he was. Iris, who hadn't seen Lux for a very long time, stood on tiptoe and pressed her soft lips against his, kissing him in front of all the students who were present at the training ground. "Oh my!" Vera covered her own lips as she gave her granddaughter 2 thumbs up in her heart. She really has the Khazir bloodline flowing inside her veins. She's so bold. Lawrence's body froze after seeing the scene unfold in front of him. He was not the only one to react this way. Several boys, as well as girls, looked at the unexpected incident in front of them with shock and disbelief. Even Lux, who had just been kissed by Iris, stiffened after realizing what just transpired. The young lady in question pulled back with a smile. However, her smile didn't last long as the realization of what she had just done hit her. "I am sorry," Iris stuttered as her whole face turned beet red. "I missed Brother Lux so much that my brain momentarily went blank. That was my first kiss. I was hoping to do it in a more romantic way. Oh no, what have I done?" The beautiful young lady was about to panic when she found herself being wrapped up in a protective embrace. "I missed you, Iris," Vera said as she kissed her granddaughter's forehead. "Why don't we visit your father so that our family can have afternoon tea together?" "Why, yes. Let's do that, Grandma." Iris immediately grabbed Vera's hand because it was the perfect excuse to get out of this tricky situation. She half-dragged her grandma towards the exit of the training ground. "Let's have afternoon tea together. Alicia, please prepare some snacks as well." "As you wish, my lady." Alicia bowed, but wasn't able to hide the smirk on her lips upon seeing Iris' flustered expression. When the young beauty felt that there was something amiss, Iris immediately remembered that Lux was still rooted on the spot and was looking at them with a dazed expression. "Brother Lux, what are you zoning about there for?" Iris asked with an embarrassed look on her face. "Don't tell me you fainted standing up? Let's go have tea together." Iris let go of her grandma's hand and ran back towards Lux. She then grabbed his hand and ran back to Vera's side, forcefully dragging the half-elf along. "Now, let's go," Iris said as she held the hands of the 2 most important people in her life, aside from her father. She led them towards the exit of the training ground, leaving a dumbfounded crowd behind. Lawrence, who had initially wanted to confront the red-headed stranger, stood rooted on the spot as he watched them leave with a frustrated look on his face. It was at that moment when the young man realized that the students inside the academy, who also pursued Iris, weren't his true love rivals. His greatest rival was none other than the red-headed teenager who stole his crush's first kiss. "Brother, say, aw." Iris happily spoon-fed Lux some apple pie with a sweet smile on her face. Vera looked at his scene happily. Ever since Lux turned 10 and Iris turned 9, she had been thinking of pairing the 2 of them together. Both of them were her grandchildren, and she wanted the 2 of them to live a happy life together. Fortunately, Iris was more than happy with the idea, and even asked her grandma to make sure that no other girls became close with Lux while he was in Wildguard Stronghold. Truth be told, there were many girls that had a crush on Lux in the Stronghold, but their parents told them that it would be better to choose someone else. The first reason was due to Lux's sickly constitution, the other reason being his inability to go to Elysium. The people of Solais had strength, stability, and resources. Lux might be good-looking, but that was all he had. He neither had power, stability, nor resources. His good looks made him popular, but good looks and popularity alone wouldn't put food on the table. When it came to choosing a son-in-law, the parents would prefer men who were strong enough to protect his wife. This was why Lux was not a good prospect in the eyes of those who lived in Wildguard Stronghold. But Iris didn't care whether Lux was strong or not. She had fallen in love with him because, although he was sickly, he always played with her and did his best to be there for her whenever her father was away. Admittedly, Vera also played a vital role in how the two became close because she always created opportunities for the two of them to always be together. However, the time they spent together became scarce as Lux focused on his training in order to enter Elysium. Iris did the same, but her environment was special. As the daughter of a saint, she was well protected at all times. Iris' profession was a beast tamer who also specialized in monster breeding. The reason Lux came to see her was because there was something that not many people knew about Iris, and that was her unbelievable luck. It would not be an exaggeration to call her Lady Luck's daughter. If a flock of birds were to drop their poop on a crowd of people, you could be certain that everyone would get hit except her. She also stumbled upon monster eggs in the fields, and when she hatched them, rare and legendary monsters would be born 100% of the time. Right now, Iris had 5 beast companions that she had raised from eggs: a blue dragon, a white tiger, a red phoenix, a black turtle, and a unicorn. Lux had even joked at one time that if she planned to rule the world, it would definitely become a reality. After Iris' one-sided display of affection, which was sweet enough to rot Lux's teeth, the half-elf brought up why he had come to see her. An egg that came from an alpha beast. Iris' eyes sparkled immediately at the mention of the monster egg. Fu. So, brother came to see me, so I could hatch your egg, right? Yes. Lux nodded as he took his egg out of the special storage ring that Vera had given him, which was exclusively used for carrying monster eggs. Please help me, Iris. Iris smiled as she placed the 2-foot-tall monster egg on her lap and lightly caressed its surface. I can sense its strong will to live, Iris commented as she closed her eyes. Don't worry, I will hatch you soon. The young beauty with light blue hair smiled as she carried the egg towards the bestiary. Lux followed behind her because he was quite excited to see the kind of monster that would be born from the egg. Neither Vera nor Alicia had gone with them because they didn't want to get in the way of the two youngsters. Fu. Brother Lux, somehow, I feel like I'm going to hatch our baby, Iris said as she placed the egg on an incubator. So, what would you like to have? A boy or a girl? Either one is fine, Lux replied, as long as they are born healthy. Because it had been a while since he had seen Iris, Lux had completely forgotten what kind of girl she was. The young beauty beside him was a complete brocon. However, Iris wasn't just an ordinary brocon. She was the kind of brocon who had the intention of marrying her bro. Iris smiled as she nodded her head. Yes, that is the important part. Don't worry, I will make sure to give birth to our baby properly. Lux was already used to Iris' way of speaking after spending many years with her, so he decided to remain silent and pretend that he didn't hear what she just said. Iris chanted as her hands wrote runic engravings on the surface of the monster egg. Usually, monster breeders had the ability to inject some of their magical powers, as well as their life force, in order to assist the birth of a monster. This would ensure that the monster would be born safely and, at times, awaken a rare skill or ability that would set it apart from monsters of its kind, similar to named creatures like Diablo and Ishtar. After she finished her chanting, the egg started to glow, and a small crack appeared on its surface. Soon, the crack spread until the entire egg was covered by them. Lux stared at it with bated breath as he thought about the monster that would be born from it. Knowing Iris, this will definitely be a mythical monster. Could this be a dragon? Or perhaps a phoenix. Wait, she already has both of them. So what is the thing that is missing from her lineup? The only one I can think of is a Chelan. Lux then pushed this thought aside because the egg finally split apart, revealing the monster inside it. Brother Lux, our baby is finally born. Iris happily picked up the monster and gave her a kiss. Isn't she cute? From now on, your name will be Eiko. The newly born monster, Eiko, pressed her body against Iris' right cheek, as if returning the kiss that she gave her. Lux, on the other hand, looked at the monster in Iris' hand with a dumbfounded expression on his face. He was expecting that he would get a mythical or legendary alpha beast after getting Iris' help, but the monster that had been hatched was a very common monster, which made Lux question whether Iris had somehow used up all of her luck hatching her own beast companions. Brother Lux, isn't she adorable? Iris asked as she presented the baby monster to Lux. Why, yes, Lux replied. She looked so jiggly. Iris giggled as she once again planted a kiss on the baby monster before placing her in Lux's hands. The half-elf stared at Eiko, and Eiko stared back at him. This was their first meeting, and it also marked the start of Eiko's journey alongside Lux, as they explored the world where miracles and wishes could. Lux had a confused look on his face as he stared at his baby monster, Eiko. The half-elf had no idea how a 2-foot-tall egg could give birth to a blue slime that was only as big as his hand. Brother, you still need to give her a drop of your blood, Iris reminded. This is how we put our imprint on baby monsters, so that they will fully recognize us as their parents. Is that so? Lux thought as he allowed Iris to lightly prick his left index finger to draw blood. He wasn't an expert when it comes to monster breeding, so he decided to let his stepsister guide him to do the finishing touches. Once enough blood pooled on the tip of his fingertip, Lux then placed it over Eiko's head, but the baby slime did something unexpected. As if sensing Lux's blood, Eiko raised her head and extended her body to bite his fingertip. The half-elf almost jumped back in shock, but was able to stop at the last minute out of sheer willpower. After consuming his blood, Eiko's body glowed briefly and rows of text appeared inside Lux's soul book. Iris giggled as she picked up Eiko with both of her hands. She then used an ability of hers to draw blood from her fingertip and allowed Eiko to absorb her blood as well. Just like what happened after Eiko had taken Lux's blood, Eiko's body glowed briefly, which meant that Eiko recognized Iris as her parent as well. With this, I will be your mama and brother will be your papa. Iris smiled sweetly as she gave Lux a sidelong glance, before giving Eiko a kiss, which made the blue slime's small body jiggle. The red-headed teenager could only scratch the back of his head because he didn't know how he should react to Iris' teasing. I guess I'll just check on Eiko's stats first, Lux thought as he opened his soul book. Just as he expected, a new page had appeared that was exclusive for Eiko. However, what he saw in the information sheet of the baby slime made Lux wonder if he was just seeing things. Eiko, the world is my oyster. Named Slime Monster. Rating, Progress, 0/1000. Health, 40/40. Mana, 400/400. Strength, 2. Intelligence, 20. Vitality, 2. Agility, 2. Dexterity, 2. Special abilities, Mimicry, EX. Regeneration, EX. Active skill, none. Passive skill, none. Title, Mama's and Papa's Girl. Note, this baby slime will someday rule the world. Mimicry EX. Eiko is able to copy up to 6 skills or abilities from anyone and anything within a 50-meter radius around her. Copied skills are only temporary and only last for a maximum of 2 hours before disappearing completely. This skill can also copy the appearance of the target creature, allowing Eiko to transform into that form. Duration of transformation lasts for a maximum of 1 hour. Eiko's stats remain as they are, regardless of what type of creature or non-living creature she copied. Even if she transforms herself into a dragon, her stats will remain the same. Regeneration, EX. Increase health and mana regeneration by 500%. This ability can also regenerate any injuries that Eiko received in battle. Even if she was cut into 100 pieces, As long as a part of her exists, she will be able to fully regenerate her body without fail. Title: Mama's and Papa's Girl. If either Lux von Kaiser or Iris von Kaiser is within a 50 square meter radius of Eiko, all of her stats will increase by 50% during battle. If both of them are present, Eiko will receive a 100% increase in all of her stats during battle. The fuck is this sh*T? Lux cursed internally as he looked at the cheat-like abilities that were available on Eiko's status page. The first thing that he noticed was the incredibly high progression rating that Eiko currently had. Even Diablo's and Ishtar's ratings started with only 100 points, but Eiko's rating had jumped straight to 1,000. This was something unexpected, and Lux was starting to feel his head aching at the thought of how he would be able to get Eiko to upgrade with the measly amount of resources he currently had. Also, unlike his two other named creatures, Diablo and Ishtar, Eiko didn't have a 50% bonus when absorbing beast cores. This meant that the baby slime needed to eat 100 rank 1 beast cores in order to get her first upgrade. Lux also believed that Eiko's two skills, Mimicry EX and Regeneration EX, were nothing to scoff at. Those two skills alone was enough to tell him how powerful Eiko would be if she reached a higher rank. I knew that I would get something insane if I left the hatching of the egg to Iris, but I didn't expect to learn that this kind of insanity existed. Lux pinched the bridge of his nose because his stepsister was truly a lady blessed by luck. Just as Lux was wondering how to upgrade Eiko to the next level, he saw Iris holding a blue rank 1 beast core that was the size of a quail's egg and fed it to the baby slime in her hands. The half-elf watched this endearing scene with a smile on his face, but his smile froze when a row of text once again appeared on Eiko's status page, catching him completely by surprise. Eiko has learned the skill Water Bullet. Water Bullet. Mana, 5. Shoot a small ball of compressed water at your target, dealing 20 to 30 magical damage. Deals 100% additional damage to fire-type monsters. Eiko activated the skill Mimicry EX. Target Lux von Kaiser. Successfully copied skill Evolution EX. Skill Evolution EX detected a new skill. Water Bullet will be upgraded in a Hydro Ball once the requirements have been met. Hydro Ball. Shoot a ball of compressed water at your target, dealing 100 to 200 magical damage. Deals 100% additional damage to fire-type monsters. Requirements to upgrade. Use Water Bullet 10x. Progress 0/10. Before Lux could even digest the words that he had read, Eiko turned around and spat a blob of water at the floor. She did this 10 times, with an interval of a few seconds in between. Immediately after that, Lux received a notification that Eiko's Water Bullet skill had successfully evolved into Hydro Ball. Wow, you're amazing, Eiko. Iris praised the baby monster who jiggled in her hand in happiness. But let's go outside, okay? We don't want you damaging this place. Iris happily left the bestiary and headed to her personal training ground with the baby slime in her arms. Lux could only stare at them in disbelief as he tried to understand what had just transpired a moment ago. I think I discovered a bug in the system, Lux thought as he forced himself to follow Iris and Eiko to her private training room. Deep inside, he was starting to have a feeling of anticipation. Although Eiko was still a baby right now, her possibilities were endless. The half-elf couldn't even imagine what kind of upgrade the baby slime would have once she consumed the necessary amount of beast cores to upgrade her rank to the next level. Iris hummed, holding Eiko in her arms as she headed to her personal training field, while Lux followed a few steps behind them. The half-elf had lent her his soul book, so she could also see Eiko's stats. Lux was hoping that Iris would be surprised after seeing Eiko's status page, but the blue-haired beauty didn't even bat an eye after seeing the information that was in front of her. Iris, don't you think it's strange? Lux asked. Eiko's progression bar requires 1,000 points, although she's only at rank E-. Isn't this a bit too much? Iris stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at Lux with a confused expression on her face. Isn't that normal? Iris blinked. My beast companions had the same progression point when they were hatched from their eggs. The corner of Lux's lips twitched when he realized that he had forgotten that Iris beast companions were all mythical beasts. Her standards for normal were already very high at the start, which made Lux feel sorry for his own summoned creatures, like Diablo and Ishtar, which started at 100 progression points at their lowest rank. "Oh, are you worried about raising her rank, brother?" Iris smiled. "Don't worry. I will give Aiko 100 rank 1 beast cores to upgrade her rank. This is my responsibility as her mama. But the rest will have to depend on her papa, okay?" Iris winked at Lux before she continued, walking towards their destination while humming a song. Lux could only scratch his head. Iris was really treated like a princess in Barbados Academy. 100 rank 1 beast cores were nothing to her. On the contrary, he had to fight against hordes of monsters in order to secure the same amount of beast cores. Well, I guess this is also a good thing, Lux thought. My supply of beast cores has dwindled as of late. I don't even have enough to upgrade Diablo, Ishtar, and the other skeletons. I guess I'll have to farm beast cores when I return to Leaf Village. While Lux was still thinking about the most ideal place to go to hunt for beast cores in the beginner zone, they finally arrived at their destination. The moment Iris appeared in the training room, 2 monsters immediately ran up to her. One was a white tiger, and the other was a unicorn. Both monsters were 2 meters tall, which would have been intimidating to those who were not familiar with them. However, since Lux had visited Iris many times in the past, her 2 guardian beasts recognized him immediately. The white tiger nudged its head against Lux's chest, and the latter rubbed its neck, which made the tiger purr. "Have you been a good boy, Hans?" Lux asked the white tiger, who seemed to be enjoying the attention he was receiving from Lux. Hans growled lightly, as if replying to Lux's question. Among Iris' beast companions, the white tiger and the half-elf got along the most, and would play with each other whenever Lux visited Iris in the academy. The unicorn stared at the blue slime in Iris' arm and neighed. Clearly, it wasn't happy seeing its owner pamper a monster aside from them. It even moved its head closer to look at Aiko, who was also looking back at it. "Aiko, this is Astra." Iris introduced her unicorn to the slime that was looking at it with curiosity. "Astra, this is Aiko. She is mine and brother's baby. Please get along with her, okay?" The unicorn gave a light snort as it moved its head closer to the baby slime. Astra didn't like it when other monsters, aside from its companions, got near Iris. Unicorns get jealous very easily. This was why it decided to intimidate the baby slime, who is currently monopolizing its master's good graces. Aiko stared at the unicorn for a few seconds before spitting a blob of water at its head, drenching it completely. The unicorn hastily backed away as it shook its head to dry itself from the unexpected attack from the baby monster. The baby slime giggled after seeing the unicorn's antics and immediately spat one water bullet after the other. Astra raised its head arrogantly as it easily dodged Aiko's attack, making the baby's smile turn into a pout. Seeing that its attacks weren't hitting its target, Aiko stopped spitting water bullets and cried. "Oh, don't cry, little Aiko." Iris coaxed the baby slime as she cradled her in her arms like a baby. "It's fine. Astra will play with you some other time." The baby slime instantly quieted down when Iris started to feed it beast cores. However, she didn't expect that what she was doing could make anyone green with jealousy if only they were able to see Aiko's status page. "Aiko, say mama. Ma, mama, ma, my baby is so smart," Iris said as she rubbed her cheek against Aiko's body, which made the baby slime giggle. On the other side, the unicorn snorted in irritation. Lux and Hans only looked at this scene with amused expressions on their faces. "I'll choose 2 from the options later, once I have a better understanding of what would be more beneficial for Aiko," Lux thought as he walked towards Iris, who was humming happily while dancing with the baby slime in her hands. "Thank you, Iris," Lux said. "I wouldn't have been able to upgrade Aiko's rank without your help." Iris stopped dancing and smiled at the red-headed teenager who rarely visited her due to his training. "You're welcome, brother," Iris replied as she presented Aiko to Lux. "Aiko, call him Papa." The little slime looked at Lux with curiosity before spraying water on his face, drenching him completely. Iris hurriedly took a step back and moved Aiko away, preventing the mischievous baby slime from continuing to spray water on her beloved brother. Eiko stopped spraying water before giggling like a naughty kid that had succeeded in its prank. Iris then gave Lux an apologetic look, while the latter just waved his hand to tell her that he was fine. As Lux dried his face with a towel, Iris admonished Eiko for being naughty, which made the baby slime look at her with a teary-eyed face. Seeing her adorable daughter look at her that way, Iris couldn't find it in herself to further chastise the baby in her hand. "Just don't do it again, okay?" Iris said in a gentle tone. "That is your papa. You should always treat him as you treat me. We're family, so you shouldn't play pranks on your papa, okay?" "Family." Eiko repeated Iris' words before nodding her head in understanding. Iris smiled with satisfaction. "Good girl. Now let's say sorry to your papa, okay?" Eiko nodded. Iris once again approached Lux with Eiko in hand. The half-elf had just finished wiping his head and looked at the baby slime with a guarded expression on his face. Eiko looked at Lux innocently as Iris held her up until the baby slime was only 2 feet away from Lux's face. "Pa," Eiko said. Lux smiled and lightly patted Eiko's head. Eiko didn't move and allowed Lux to lightly pat her head. When the half-elf pulled his hand away, the baby slime jumped off of Iris' hand and landed on her papa's head with excellent precision. The baby slime then turned around to face Iris with a smile on its face. "Ma, well done, Eiko." Iris clapped her hand as she praised her baby. "That's my baby girl." Her praise made Eiko giggle, which made the baby slime jump back to her. The young lady caught the mischievous baby effortlessly. Iris had a lot of experience from raising many monsters that had been left behind by their owners in the academy because they were still too young to accompany them on their journey to Elysium. Baby monsters were often targeted by other monsters because they were deemed as easy prey, which in turn resulted in their early demise. To prevent this from happening, Barbados Academy had opened up a nursery for these monsters. Their owners only had to prepare a good number of beast cores in order to hasten their growth. Iris was a beast tamer, so she would frequent the nursery in order to take care of the baby monsters that were left behind. She was not new to the mischievous antics of these monsters because, most of the time, newly born monsters just wanted to seek the attention of their owners. Depending on their personality, some would play pranks to their owners because this was their way of showing their affection to them. "Big brother, I think Eiko is a prankster," Iris said as she lightly patted Eiko's head as she faced her stepbrother. Monsters like these are very hard to raise because they do things at their own pace. Sometimes, they will even take the initiative to attack other monsters out of curiosity, which often leads to them getting seriously injured. If you plan to take Eiko with you to Elysium, make sure to always have an eye on her, so she doesn't go and cause trouble for anyone. Lux nodded. "Thanks for the reminder. I'll keep that in mind." As someone who had no experience with raising pets, Iris' insight was very helpful to him. Eiko was his first beast companion, so he needed to understand her character. This way, he would know how to handle certain situations when he was traveling, while bringing her with him. Iris was about to say something else, but she stopped after hearing Astra's irritated neigh. "What's wrong, Astra?" Iris asked. Astra once again neighed as it used its horn to point at the baby slime who had crawled on top of Iris' head. Eiko glanced at the unicorn and narrowed her eyes. Because of her ability to understand all creatures, she understood that the unicorn wanted her to leave her mama's head. The baby slime didn't want to leave, so she decided to show the arrogant unicorn that she wasn't someone that it could mess with. Eiko spat several fire bullets in rapid succession towards the unicorn that was trying to make her stay away from her mama. Astra had already expected that this would happen, so it casually dodged Eiko's attack with ease, while looking at her in contempt. The arrogant expression on the unicorn's face didn't sit well with Eiko, so she unleashed a barrage of spells that she had just recently learned. Astra neighed with disdain as the little slime pelted it with elemental attacks in rapid succession. As a monster that had been cared for by Iris for many years, Astra's rank was equivalent to a rank 3 monster. Since the unicorn specialized in speed, it was very easy for it to dodge the attacks of a low-level monster like Eiko. After seeing that her attacks weren't connecting, Eiko's body glowed briefly as it shouted with its adorable voice. Arise! Suddenly, a scene that Lux and Iris didn't expect to happen in front of them happened. 7 skeleton fighters and 4 skeleton grand archers appeared in front of Iris. Echo raised its head and shouted, "Attack!" The slime's 7 skeleton fighters charged at the unicorn with fury. The skeleton grand archers also used their crippling volley attack in order to limit the number of places that Astra could move. The unicorn was caught by surprise, but it wasn't entirely helpless either. As one of Iris' guardians, it had faced this situation numerous times when it accompanied her to Elysium. Astra disappeared from where it stood using its blink ability, then fired a beam of light from the tip of its horn at the approaching skeletons. The attack blew the skeleton fighters away and shaved off half of their health. The unicorn once again blinked and instantly appeared behind the skeleton grand archers and used its thrash attack, kicking them in different directions. Lux had already pulled Iris and helped her back away from the intense battle, so she wasn't in any danger from the battle that was currently being waged by Echo's summons as well as Astra's skills. Han stood in front of his master, ready to block any wayward spells or attacks that might head in her direction. Unknown to the 3 of them, Echo had blinked away from Iris' head and was currently jumping towards her minions in order to fight alongside them. Astra wanted Echo to stay away from Iris, which upset the baby slime. Because of this, she decided to fight against the annoying unicorn and show it that she was not someone that could be bullied easily. "Brother, what is happening?" Iris asked. "Where did those skeletons come from?" "Echo copied my summoning skills," Lux answered. "Iris, the baby slime you hatched from the egg I gave you might be the strongest slime in existence." "Brother, Echo is our daughter. Of course, she's bound to be the strongest." Now that you mention it, how can my daughter be a weakling?" "I know, right?" While Lux and Iris were spectating from the side, Echo was spitting one spell after another at the unicorn that was trying to bully her. Astra merely looked at the baby slime with contempt as it deftly evaded her attacks with ease. For the attacks that were impossible to evade, it would just use blink and instantly appear several meters away from its original position. If Astra didn't have the blink skill, it would be hard-pressed to fight against the skeletons that Echo had summoned. However, since it could use blink, it had complete control of the current pace of the battle. Not wanting to lose, Echo copied Lux's skill, Mana Drain, EX, and tried to drain the unicorn's mana in an attempt to prevent it from blinking away. When the baby slime activated her Mana Drain skill, the unicorn instantly felt that some of its mana was being siphoned to the baby slime who had its mouth open wide. Neighing in anger, Astra blinked towards Echo's location, wanting to punish her for trying to defy it. However, just as Astra appeared in front of Echo, the baby slime disappeared using her own blink ability. As soon as Echo reappeared in the distance, she spat a void arrow towards the unicorn, planning to blind it. Unfortunately for her, the one she was fighting against was a veteran beast. Astra also blinked away, and this time it blinked behind Echo. Sensing that the enemy was behind her, Echo blinked away, preventing herself from being pressed down by Astra's hoof. Starting from that moment, both beasts fought by using blinks consecutively. The unicorn was doing its best to get close to the baby slime, while Echo was doing her best to escape from Astra. This game of tag lasted for 2 full minutes before the baby slime reappeared in the corner of the room, panting for breath. Echo had used all of her mana with the constant blinking and could no longer move away from the unicorn who had a devilish smile on its face. Just as Astra was about to close in on the baby slime, whose body had almost turned into a small puddle due to fatigue, a skeleton with burning golden eyes in its sockets appeared in front of it. Soon, a clang resounded in the training field as Astra's horn met Diablo's shield head-on. Lux's named creature held his ground as he blocked Astra's attack. Although Astra was stronger than Diablo, his appearance had unnerved the unicorn, which made the latter unable to use its full power, resulting in their clash becoming a tie. "All right, Astra, I think that's enough," Lux said as he extended both of his hands to scoop up the exhausted baby slime that was lying on the floor. "Echo is still a baby. Don't bully her too much." The unicorn snorted, but it no longer pursued the matter. Its main reason was because it felt that it was beneath it to keep bullying a newborn baby monster. Astra only wanted to teach Eiko a lesson for trying to disobey her superior. It didn't expect Eiko to have a stubborn personality with no intention of backing down, which resulted in the short skirmish between the two of them. Iris looked at this scene with a smile on her face. As a beast tamer, she understood that Astra was just feeling a bit jealous of Eiko because Iris was pampering her. Among her 5 mythical beasts, it was Astra who had the least tolerance towards strangers approaching Iris casually. Luckily, after repeatedly reminding it to not attack the students in the academy who were trying to get close to Iris, the unicorn finally managed to rein in its emotions. Unfortunately, while it had developed sufficient tolerance against humans, it still didn't like other monsters being chummy with its mother tamer. "Pa," Eiko said as she weakly raised her head. "Woo-woo-woo." The baby slime started to cry, and tears streamed down from her eyes. Lux lightly patted her head and allowed Eiko to cry on his chest. Truth be told, he was shocked at how much of a battle junkie Eiko was. Maybe she knew deep inside that Astra wouldn't really hurt her, so she decided to fight against the unicorn in order to get back at it. Unfortunately, the baby slime was still a baby. Even with her cheat-like abilities, she was still not a match for a battle-hardened veteran that had protected Iris from the dangers of Elysium. "It's fine, Eiko." Lux coaxed the baby slime. "Let's get back at it when you grow stronger, okay? Just give a year, and we will be clapping Astra's butt cheeks." Astra neighed angrily at Lux, as if telling him, "Bro, what the F asterisk CK? You are a bad influence on your daughter." Iris, who had also approached the crying baby, pouted as she lightly pinched Lux's ears. "Brother, don't teach Eiko to carry a grudge," Iris said with a serious expression. "She's still young and must be taught what is right and wrong. Do you want her to grow up to be a rebellious child?" Lux only smiled as he continued to pat the crying slime's head. Although he was still struggling to grasp the concept of treating a monster as his daughter, he thought that it might not be such a bad idea. Perhaps, feeling his change of heart, Eiko's body relaxed in his hand and fell asleep. Iris peered at the sleeping baby's face with a smile. "Brother, raising a monster is not easy," Iris said. "Some people treat them as pets. Others treat them as friends, while the majority treat them as tools. I hope that you won't treat Eiko as a tool in order to advance in Elysium. If you do, I'll make sure to take her away from you. Anyway, I can raise our daughter myself." Lux glanced at the young lady who was staring at him with a serious expression on her face. Clearly, she meant every word that she had said and would definitely take Eiko away from him if he treated the latter wrongly. "I promise that I won't treat her as a tool." Lux met Iris' serious gaze with his own. "I will also not treat her as a pet. Since you wanted to raise her as part of our family, then I will do my best to treat her as one. However, I admit that this concept is new to me. Please, give me time to adjust." "Oh, you don't have to worry about that, brother. If you're not comfortable calling Eiko your daughter, that's fine too. When I turn 16, I'll ask Grandma to help me prepare our wedding," Iris said with a smile. "When that happens, we can make a real baby. That way, you will have plenty of time to practice how to become a father." Well, that escalated rather quickly, Lux thought as he took a step back, while looking at the young beauty whose eyes started to turn dreamy. The half-elf didn't reject the idea of the two of them getting married. However, after regaining his memories, he remembered his main goal and the reason why he had to go to Elysium. In order to make his stepsister and his grandmother happy, he must do his best to find a way to keep the world of Solais from dying. Only by doing so would they have a future and a place where they could raise a family together. As Lux was lost in his thoughts, working out how he would achieve his goal, Iris had already closed the distance and wrapped her arms around him. She didn't hold him tightly, and even allowed the half-elf to break out of her hold if he really wanted to do it. "Brother Lux, I know that you might be tired of hearing me repeat things over and over again, but these are my real feelings," Iris said softly as she gazed at her beloved stepbrother's beautiful green eyes that she liked so much. "Although it was Grandma who tried to matchmake the two of us, I sincerely hope that you will consider making me your wife. I promise that I will do my best to make you happy. I know that for the longest time, your goal has been to go to Elysium. I respect that, and I wish for you to succeed as well. However, know this, I have liked you for a very long time. Iris smiled as she pressed her finger over Lux's lips in order to stop him from saying anything. Don't give me an answer now. Iris looked at him with a tender gaze. Think about it, and give me your answer in a year or two. But know this, if your answer is no, then I will have no choice but to ask for Grandma's help to tie you up and have the two of us wed whether you like it or not. The corner of Lux's lips twitched. Iris had managed to pluck his heartstrings with the first half of her confession. However, everything went south at the end, which made him unable to decide whether he should laugh or cry at her subtle threat of a shotgun wedding. Understood. Lux nodded his head in understanding. He had long known that Iris liked him, and he was no longer a child who would pretend that he didn't understand. Since that was the case, he would also be open with his own feelings and ask her a question that had been in his mind for quite some time. Iris, I have a serious question to ask you. Go ahead, brother. Let's say, for example, that I fell in love with someone else. What would you do then? The corner of Iris' lips curled up into a smirk as she looked at Lux's handsome face. Whoever they may be, they must first get my approval, Iris answered. Then, and only then will I allow them to enter your harem. Lux blinked as he stared back at Iris, who was looking back at him with a smile. You're not angry about me having other ladies aside from you? Lux asked. Well, I will be lying if I said that I don't feel sad about it, Iris replied. However, if they were capable of making you fall in love with them, then that means they have the qualifications to get my approval. So, dear brother of mine, promise me this. If you truly find someone that you love, do not hide her from me, okay? Understood. I can make this promise to you. Good. That is all I ask, brother. Iris reluctantly took a step back as she looked at the half-elf in front of her, who had grown up with her since she was young. Even now, she didn't know if the feelings she had for him were familial love or true love. However, one thing was clear. She liked Lux from the bottom of her heart. She also knew that Lux liked her, too. It was only her father, Alexander, who opposed their relationship. Although the headmaster of Barbados Academy never talked about it, Iris could tell that he didn't think that Lux was worthy of becoming her groom due to the latter's repeated failures to get the qualifications to enter Elysium. Just you wait, father, Iris thought with an amused expression on her face. Brother Lux isn't the incompetent person that you thought he was. I can't wait to see the look on your face when he wins the tournament that you have prepared in order to look for my fiancée. The Princess of Barbados Academy smiled sweetly. Although there were many geniuses that would join the competition to win her hand in marriage, for some reason, she wasn't afraid. She didn't know where this confidence of hers was coming from. But after seeing Lux's soul book today, she understood that his potential was limitless. Deep inside, she was very happy. How could she not be? She knew that if Lux was given a year or two, he would definitely surpass all those so-called geniuses that had graduated from the apostle grade and stepped into the rank of initiates. Her gaze softened when she saw Aiko crawl towards Lux's neck to give him a kiss. Although this little family of theirs might look like they were merely playing house to other people, Iris firmly believed that one day her wishes and after Aiko's battle with Astra, the baby slime slept peacefully in Lux's arms. Iris walked beside Lux as they went to find Vera in the Sky Garden of Barbados Academy. This particular garden was divided into 4 areas. The first one was for the students with commoner backgrounds. The second was for those with noble backgrounds. The third was for the elite students of the academy who had shown exceptional talent in Elysium. This special area didn't care whether you were a noble or not. As long as you had results, you would be a part of this exclusive club. Everyone wanted to enter this circle of the elites because they were truly the recognized prodigies of the 6 kingdoms that backed Barbados Academy. Even princes and princesses could not enter the elite circle, regardless of how much influence and money they tried to use. And last, but not the least, was the private sanctuary of the Kaiser family. Since Alexander was one of the strongest humans in the western regions of Solais, no one dared to defy him whenever he made a decision. This was also the case for the part of the garden where Iris usually stayed with her beast companions whenever she wasn't training. When Lux and Iris arrived at the garden, they saw Vera enjoying some tea, while being served by Alicia, who wanted to score some brownie points with Alexander's mother. Vera knew that the beautiful secretary admired her son and had already approved of her. However, Alexander had become distant and indifferent after Iris' mother died due to her poor health. Since then, he never remarried nor even looked at other ladies with the intention of marrying them. For him, Alicia was only his secretary and their relationship was pure business. Nothing more, nothing less. Poor girl, Lux thought as he looked at the beautiful lady, who was trying to aim for the moon, but was given rice crackers instead. Grandma! Iris smiled brightly as she ran towards Vera to give her a hug and a kiss on her left cheek. After giving her greeting, the young beauty gave Lux a sidelong glance before whispering something in Vera's ear, which made the old woman smile sweetly. As if it was a planned move, both ladies gazed at Lux's with faces that screamed, "Mission accomplished." The half-elf could only chuckle nervously because he could already hear the wedding bells ringing in the distance. His only hope was his stepfather, Alexander, getting in the way of the two ladies' plans. "Grandma, please meet your great-granddaughter," Lux said with a teasing tone as he presented the still sleeping baby slime to his grandmother. As if sensing someone staring at her, Eiko opened her eyes and saw an old woman staring at her with an amused expression on her face. "Mama," Eiko said happily as she looked at Vera. Lux was quite surprised that his baby slime had called Vera Monma, which was the endearment he used to call her when he was young. Vera was also surprised and gave Lux a glance, as if asking him if he had asked Eiko to call her in this manner. The half-elf shook his head firmly in response, which made Vera shift her attention back to the little slime who was lightly jumping on Lux's hands. "Come here, little one." Vera picked up the baby slime with both hands and brought her close to her face to take a better look at Eiko. Eiko didn't resist. In fact, when Vera tried to scoop her up, she jumped on Vera's hands and giggled. Perhaps she thought that her great-grandmother was playing a game with her, so she decided to play with her. "Mama, kiss," Eiko said as she jumped up and down on Vera's hands. Vera chuckled because this was the first time she had seen a slime act like a spoiled child, which tickled her heart. The old lady then kissed Eiko's cheeks, and the baby slime returned the favor. After sharing a kiss, Eiko crawled from Vera's hand to her shoulder until she stood beside her neck. Vera then picked up a small cookie from her plate and fed it to the baby slime, who was more than happy to eat some snacks after her battle with the unicorn, who bullied her. "Although I didn't expect that my first granddaughter would be a slime, this feeling isn't half bad," Vera commented as she gave Eiko another cookie. "But Lux, make sure to give me another great-grandchild in 5 years, okay? I don't have much time left, and I still want to hold your baby." "Grandma, you're still young," Lux replied as he rested a hand on his grandma's other shoulder. "I'm sure that you'll be able to live for another 100 years. Silly boy, my ears are not as long as yours." "Grandma!" Lux suddenly felt sad after seeing the wrinkles on his grandma's face. He hadn't paid any attention to this in the past because, for him, Vera was strong and healthy. Also, Vera rarely showed any signs of weakness. For her to tell him that she didn't have much time and wanted to see her great-grandchild made him realize that he had only been thinking of himself as of late. He had never paused to consider his grandma, who had raised him since he was a baby. The half-elf thought that because Vera was strong, she would be able to live longer. The people in Solais lived longer lifespans compared to the humans back on Earth. Most of them could live up to 200 years old without any problems. Lux had never asked Vera how old she was because he had long been told that asking a woman's age was disrespectful. But, seeing how old Vera looked, the red-headed teenager felt a tightening in his heart as he thought about a future without her. "Don't worry, Grandma," Lux said softly. "I promise you that before I turn 20, you'll be holding another great-grandchild in your hands." Vera looked at her grandson and nodded her head with satisfaction. "I'll look forward to it." Iris, who was listening from the side, held her burning cheeks with both hands as her face turned beet red. "Grandma, I will also do my best," Iris commented. "What do you want? A girl or a boy?" I don't mind if it's a girl or a boy, as long as they are born healthy." "Understood. Let's do our best, brother." Eiko, who was listening to their conversation, also smiled. It was as if she was also excited to see her future brother or sister, who would be, "Look after your papa for me, okay? Ma, make sure he doesn't cheat on me, okay? Ma." Vera chuckled as she patted Iris' head. "Don't teach Aiko things like this, Iris," Vera said with a smile. "She's still a baby." Iris stuck her tongue out at Lux, while the latter just shook his head helplessly. After spending a few days in Barbados Academy, the half-elf had been targeted by several students who had a crush on Iris. Naturally, Lux didn't fight them and simply told them that he was Iris' stepbrother. Instead of feeling relieved, the boys became even more aggressive, and some even cursed him, saying how jealous they were of him. Fortunately, Vera was always with him whenever he toured the academy, so no actual harm came to him. However, Lux's grandma told him that if he wanted the harassment to stop, all he needed to do was marry Iris after she turned 16 and the problem would be solved. Lux knew that his grandma was being serious about it, so he chose to stay silent and just turn a blind eye on it. He and Iris had already had a heart-to-heart talk about this and came to an agreement. For now, the half-elf would focus his attention on the thing that mattered, and that was to get stronger in Elysium and find a way to save the world of Solais from destruction. That was his reason for being born in the world. After Iris clung to Lux for 5 full minutes, under the glares of thousands of teenage boys who were wishing for his death, the young beauty finally took a step back and gazed at Lux with eyes filled with tenderness. "Make sure to take care of our daughter, Papa," Iris said in a volume that was only loud enough for Lux to hear. "If anything happens to Aiko, I'll make sure to give you a piece of my mind." Lux smiled and nodded. "I'll do my best." Since Aiko and him were now bounded together by fate, Lux decided to take good care of the baby slime and ensure that she became a strong monster. "Goodbye, Grandma." Iris hugged Vera affectionately. "Please, visit as often as you can. Just a few days is not enough for me to tie up Big Brother and give you your great-grandson." "Don't worry, next time, I'll tie him up personally," Vera replied as she hugged the young beauty back. "Take care, Iris. Also, make sure that your father doesn't overwork himself." Iris nodded. The white hippopotamus, Sophie, transformed and became bigger, allowing Vera and Lux to mount her back. Lux wanted to stay a bit longer to allow his grandma to spend more time with her son and granddaughter, but he was on a tight schedule. He had made a promise to go to the stronghold of Noria with Colette and the others, so he needed to return to Elysium as soon as possible. The half-elf and his grandmother looked in the distance as the academy slowly disappeared from their sights. "Lux, did Iris tell you about the upcoming tournament?" Vera inquired. Lux nodded. Are you planning to enter?" "Yes. If I don't, Iris will get mad at me. She will shout like a mandrake and wake up the dead." Vera chuckled as she rested her hand on her grandson's shoulder. She knew what her son was planning as a reward in the tournament, but she didn't say anything about it. Even though Lux might not become the champion, Vera would not allow her granddaughter to marry anyone else. After an uneventful journey, the two safely arrived in Wildguard Stronghold. Lux decided to rest in his room for a bit and have dinner with his grandma before returning to Elysium in the morning. There was also the matter of Aiko's skills, which he still hadn't chosen. Lux decided to rule out the summoning options that were available to her because she didn't need those at this point in time. This removed more than half the options from the list, allowing the half-elf to focus his attention on the remaining choices. Health plus 2,000, Intelligence plus 100, Underwater breathing, Lava walking, Air steps, Dig. There are no volcanoes here in the beginner's area, so I can skip lava walking for now, Lux muttered. Underwater breathing is good, but slimes can already float in the water and are good swimmers. She doesn't need to become a submarine. The additional 100 bonus to intelligence is good, so I guess I'll choose this one. As for the last one, Lux had to choose between air steps and dig. In order to better understand them, Lux decided to look at the information about the two skills so he could finalize his decision. Air steps allows Aiko to move in the air as if she was moving on land. This skill consumes 5 mana point every 30 seconds, up to a maximum of a minute. Skill cooldown 2 minutes. Dig allows Aiko to dig a hole and move underground. This skill consumes 50 mana points every 30 seconds. This skill has no cooldown and can be used as long as Echo has mana. Lux rubbed his chin as he gazed at the two choices. Both were self-explanatory, but he was still finding a hard time to decide which skill to pick for the baby slime. If he chose air steps, Echo would be able to maneuver in the air, assisting him in battle. Dig, on the other hand, would allow her to safely dig underground, preventing anyone from running after her. Both were life-saving skills, and their only difference was their usage. After a long struggle, Lux finally decided to choose air steps. Although dig was a good choice, air steps was more versatile. It also gave Echo the ability to attack from above as she unleashed a barrage of spells that she had learned after absorbing the beast cores that Iris gave her. You have chosen the skill Air Steps. Echo activated the skill Mimicry EX. Target Lux von Kaiser. Successfully copied skill Evolution EX. Skill Evolution EX detected a new skill. Since the skill is not learned from a beast core, evolution requirements will be waived. Air Steps has successfully been upgraded to Air Strider EX. Air Strider EX. Aside from traversing on air, this skill also gives Echo the ability to fly for a short period of time. This skill consumes 5 mana points every 30 seconds, up to a maximum of a minute when traversing on air. This skill consumes 50 mana points every 30 seconds, up to a maximum of 5 minutes while flying in the air. Echo. The world is my oyster. Named Slime Monster. Rating E. Progress 0/2000. Health 850/850. Mana 7,500/7,500. Strength 17. Intelligence 150. Vitality 17. Agility 17. Dexterity 17. Special abilities: Mimicry EX, Regeneration EX, Family Bond EX, Speech EX, Air Strider EX. Active skill: Water Bullet, Hydro Ball, Fire Bullet, Firebolt, Wind Bullet, Arrow Ball, Stone Bullet, Stone Spike, Shadow Bullet, Shadow Ball, Blink, Teleport, Cure-All. Passive skill: Uncanny Dodge. Title: Mama's and Papa's Girl. Note: one small step for men, one giant leap for baby slime. After looking at Echo's stats, Lux couldn't stop the corner of his lips from twitching at the cheat-like abilities that his baby slime possessed. Looking at her stats alone, Echo was now considered a rank 1 monster because her combined stats had already surpassed 200 points. Not only that, she had a vast array of skills at her disposal. The best thing of all was that she could copy any move with the help of her skill, Mimicry EX. This allowed her to double Lux's skeleton army in a heartbeat. With such a cute baby slime by his side, Lux felt that he was like one of those novel protagonists whose cheat-like abilities would make the readers reading it scream, OP. Let's sleep, Echo, Lux said as he lightly patted the baby slime that was yawning on his pillow. Tomorrow, I'll let you meet my friends. I'm sure that you will get along with them. Fwin, Echo sleepily muttered before closing her eyes to sleep. Lux smiled as he envisioned Colette's and Helen's reactions after seeing Echo. Knowing the two little girls, they would surely pamper and spoil the baby slime, who would give them a wonderful surprise as they continued their journey in Elysium. Take care of yourselves, okay? Vera said as she placed her left hand on Lux's shoulder and patted Echo's head with her right. Visit me often. We will be careful, Grandma, Lux replied. Please, take care of yourself as well. I love Mama, Echo stated, which made Vera smile. Vera kissed her adopted great-granddaughter's head, causing the latter to giggle. After looking at the father and daughter pair, Vera reluctantly stepped back. Whenever Lux returned to Elysium, she would feel worried about him. However, the red-headed teenager made sure to come home as much as he could, and each of his stays lasted for a few days before he left again. Also, Lux would show her his soul book each time, just like a student who would show their parents their report cards, so they could see how well they were doing. The half-elf wanted to assure his grandma that she didn't need to worry about his safety in the beginner's zone because he was getting strong. Since Vera already knew the extent of Lux's progress, her worries diminished a bit. But Just like a doting parent, she still felt sad whenever the two of them parted. After taking care of him for over 16 years, the old lady knew that Lux had to take the path he had chosen on his own. "Don't worry, Grandma. We will return safely," Lux said after seeing the worried expression that Vera wasn't able to hide as she looked at him. Vera nodded. "I will be waiting for the two of you to return. May the gods watch over the two of you." Lux smiled as he placed his right hand over his chest. "Open. Heaven's gate." Aiko, who had claimed the top of Lux's head as her nest, looked at her surroundings with great curiosity. As the half-elf strolled through Leaf Village, several dwarfs greeted him, while others gave him a brief nod as he passed through them. After defeating the abomination, the reputation points that he gained after finishing his quest made the locals of Leaf Village treat him as a friend. The little slime on his head also caught the attention of some dwarf children. Most of them would often look at Aiko with great curiosity as the latter walked alongside Lux. It was at that moment when he heard a familiar voice calling out to him in the distance. "Big brother." Lux glanced at the balcony of the tavern he usually went to with Colette and saw the adorable little dwarf waving at him. He also saw Helen, Andy, Axel, as well as the simp, Maddie, who was looking at him with an annoyed expression. Lux waved back as he walked towards the tavern where his friends were at. Today was the 10th day since they last saw each other. They were also planning to go to the stronghold of Noria later in the afternoon. The red-headed teenager still had the special permits that Boreas had given him to gain access to the checkpoints that they would be passing through along the way. "What took you so long?" That was the first thing that Maddie asked when Lux joined their table. "We've been waiting for 2 hours already." "Sorry, I was delayed a bit because I had breakfast with Grandma," Lux replied. Maddie clicked his tongue but didn't say anything else. Andy and Axel greeted Lux in a friendly manner, while Colette and Helen looked at the blue slime on Lux's head with curious gazes. Seeing the two girls' reaction, the half-elf decided to introduce Aiko to them. "Everyone, this is my baby monster, Aiko," Lux said with a smile. "Aiko, they're your big sis Colette and Helen. These are your big brothers Andy and Axel, and that dwarf over there, just call him Simp." Maddie rolled his eyes before drinking the ale in his mug. He was not interested in whatever the baby slime called him because he didn't care about its existence. "Sis," Aiko said as she crawled down from Lux's head towards the table. She stopped in front of Colette and looked up at her with innocent eyes, which melted the little dwarf's heart. "No good. I may not be able to kill slimes anymore," Colette said as she lightly poked Aiko's cheeks, making the baby slime giggle. "Aiko, do you like pancakes?" "You can have some of mine," Helen commented as she used her fork to feed Aiko the pancake on her plate. Aiko moved towards Helen's location and opened her mouth, allowing Helen to feed her. "Is it good?" Helen asked. Aiko nodded happily, which prompted Colette and Helen to both feed her. The baby slime happily ate everything that the two girls gave her. Since Aiko had a transparent body, everyone was able to see how she digested it all. "Do slimes digest things this fast?" Lux asked Colette, who had just finished feeding the baby slime a small sausage. The half-elf hadn't seen any slime in the past, so she didn't know if Aiko's digestion speed was normal or not. Each bite of food that was given to her would be digested in less than 5 seconds, which made him wonder if all slimes were like Aiko. Colette and Helen paused as they considered this question. Suddenly, both of them looked at Aiko in disbelief when they realized that what they were seeing wasn't normal. "As far as I know, it takes slimes a few hours to digest anything they eat," Colette said as she looked at Aiko in a different light. "Even the gluttonous slime that eats just about anything takes at least half an hour to digest the things it eats." Right after Colette finished talking, Aiko let out a burp before crawling back towards Lux's hand. Soon, she crawled back up to the half-elf's head before closing her eyes to sleep. "I think I need to do a bit more research about slimes," Lux thought. "Good thing I have the Elysium Compendium. I will take a good look at it later." Looking at the baby slime that was peacefully sleeping on Lux's head, Colette and Helen asked the red-headed teenager where he got Aiko. Since Lux couldn't possibly tell them that Aiko came from the egg that he had received as a bonus reward after killing Carbuncle, he just told them as she was given to him by his grandma Vera. The two dwarves didn't find this strange, because it was very common for parents to give their children gifts whenever they do something praiseworthy in Elysium. An hour later, all of them left the tavern and went to the Merchants' Guild to hire a carriage that would take them to the stronghold of Noria. Before he left to return to Solais, Nevriel told him that they would bring the nightmare horse that he requested from the stronghold while he was away. Lux was quite happy with this arrangement, because he was also going there to pick up weapons and armor for his skeleton army. He believed that even if they were just wielding the standard weapons that the riders of Noria used, the strength of his minions would be raised to a higher level, allowing them to deal more damage and be more resistant to the physical and magical damage that came from their enemies. As their carriage traveled towards the stronghold of Noria, Colette and Helen took care of Eiko. Lux, on the other hand, was busy reading the Elysium Compendium and doing his best to learn more about slimes. However, the more he read, the more his confusion grew. Eiko was a blue slime. It was the most common type of slime, and yet her abilities far exceeded that of ordinary slimes, which made it very hard for Lux to identify what kind of slime she really was. There's no doubt that she's a blue slime, Lux thought as he scratched his head. Well, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. After all, the one who hatched her was Iris. His stepsister's luck was off the charts, so any egg that she personally hatched would definitely be a mythical monster at the minimum. After reading for 2 hours, Lux closed the book and watched the baby slime lightly hop on top of Colette's palms, making the latter and the other dwarf girl giggle. Lux watched this scene with a smile. However, his expression immediately changed when something suddenly descended from the sky, blocking the road in front of them. P the horse, pulling the carriage, abruptly halted as it neighed in fear, but the coachman managed to rein it in. Even so, he looked at the monster in front of him with a guarded expression on his face. The dwarves immediately summoned their weapons, while Eiko hurriedly crawled towards Lux and hid behind him. All of them looked at the draconic creature with wings behind his back, who was staring at them with a hint of amusement. Colette and her friends immediately recognized the monster, which made their faces turn grim. How could they possibly forget the one that was responsible for sabotaging their mission by attacking the caravan that they were guarding? They were even kidnapped and brought into the latter's nest as prisoners. "I remember you dwarves," the creature said as soon as his eyes landed on Colette and her friends, which made them flinch. It then chuckled lightly after seeing the fear on their faces. After having its fill, it then shifted his gaze to the half-elf who stood out from the rest. "You are the one that the chieftain mentioned some time ago. The half-elf that led the warriors of Noria to our nest and started a massacre while I was away." The draconic kobold released faint traces of killing intent as his gaze locked on Lux. Clearly, it didn't like the fact that its brethren were killed while he was fighting the goblins that were trying to annex their territory. Lux faced the monster with a fearless gaze, but deep inside he was feeling anxious. The Elysium Compendium had identified the creature that was blocking their way. The red-headed teenager didn't expect that he would meet this creature on their way to the stronghold of Noria. Looking at its information, he knew that even if he fought alongside his friends, in addition to summoning all his creatures, the ending would still be the same. All of them would perish under the creature's overpowering might. Draconic Kobold, Kobold Wormling, Rank 5 Alpha Monster. Health, 400,000/400,000. Mana, 350,000/350,000. Strength, 300. Intelligence, 350. Vitality, 300. Agility, 300. Dexterity, 300. Active skills: Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, Dragon Tail, Dragon Fear, Berserk. Passive skills: Enhanced Fortitude. Enhanced Fortitude. Reduce all damage taken by 30%. *T. Lux thought as he read the information that appeared in front of him. He also had the Enhanced Fortitude skill as a passive skill, so he understood how troublesome it would be if he fought against the Draconic Kobold in front of him. All dragon monsters had this skill. Lux was only able to obtain this skill because Vera had given him a beast core that contained the skill Fortitude, which the skill evolution EX upgraded to a higher rank, giving him the same resistance as the dragon race. However, compared to the foe in front of them, his resistance was equivalent to toilet paper. Rustling sounds were heard around them, as several more kobolds appeared to surround their carriage. Although none of them held any weapons, the draconic kobold that was eyeing their group was more than enough to make Lux and the others forget about this small detail. "What do you want?" Lux asked the 2-meter-tall monster who was eyeing him like a predator that had found his prey. "Don't you know that your race and the dwarves have signed a non-aggression pact treaty? You are no longer allowed to antagonize the citizens of this domain." The draconic kobold snorted as his eyes locked onto Lux's body. "True," the draconic kobold agreed, "but that only applies to dwarves. You're not included in that treaty." OF***CK. Lux cursed internally because he had completely forgotten that he wasn't a dwarf. The agreement between the kobold chieftain as well as Boreas, the commander of Noria, only stated that they would no longer trouble the dwarves in their territory. "You are coming with me today, half-elf," the draconic kobold declared. "Take him, but do not hurt the dwarves. We won't let you touch Big Brother." Colette shouted as she gripped her mace firmly in her hands. Although she knew that she wasn't a match against the enemy in front of her, she just couldn't possibly stand by and let them take Lux just like that. "Surround Big Brother now," Colette ordered. Maddie, Andy, Axel, and Helen understood Colette's intentions. As long as they used their bodies as a shield to protect Lux, the kobold wouldn't be able to do anything to them, or they would break the agreement between the kobolds and the dwarves. "Foolish children," the draconic kobold said as it unleashed its dragon fear. Immediately, Colette and the others were subjected to an incredible pressure that made their knees buckle. They simply didn't have the ability to resist the fear-inducing effect of the dragon fear, which made them almost lose their consciousness. Suddenly, the sound of hooves was heard in the distance. The draconic kobold turned its head to see 6 riders, mounted on goats, charging in their direction. "What's the meaning of this?" the captain of the riders asked when it saw the kobolds surrounding the carriage. "Are you planning on breaking the agreement, kobold? How dare you harm our people?" The draconic kobold scoffed as it pointed its reptilian finger at Lux. "I'm not harming your people. I only want him." The dwarf captain frowned as he looked at the red-headed teenager, who was being surrounded. "You can't take him," the dwarven captain said. "He is one of us." "One of you," the draconic kobold smirked. "Do you think I'm blind, dwarf?" The dwarf captain ignored the kobold and pointed at Lux. "You there, do you have a medal bestowed unto you by His Majesty?" the dwarf captain asked. Lux nodded and took the wooden box out of his storage ring. He then opened it and showed the dwarf captain the medal that had been given to him by the king of the dwarves. "Take a good look at that, kobold," the dwarf captain said. "Although he is not one of our kind, he is considered a noble of our kingdom. This means that he is one of us, and our king treats him with high regard. You already know the punishment for those who try to kill the nobles of this kingdom, right?" The draconic kobold walked towards the half-elf with steady steps. Colette and the others tried to move their bodies to block him, but Lux stopped them from doing so. The mere thought of letting the children get hurt because of him didn't sit well with him. Since the dwarf captain was around, he knew that the draconic kobold wouldn't do anything that would break the agreement that their race had with the dwarves. The draconic kobold picked the golden medal up from the wooden box and scrutinized it. As one of the most intelligent creatures from its race, it knew the value of such trinkets. Seeing the insignia of the Guellivan kingdom embedded on the medal, the draconic kobold had no choice but to recognize that what the dwarf captain said was true. "Just this once, I will let this slide," the draconic kobold said as he returned the medal to the wooden box. "What is your name, half-elf?" "Lux," Lux answered. "Lux von Kaiser. I will remember you, Lux," the draconic kobold said with an evil smirk on its face. His face was only inches away from Lux's, and his razor-sharp teeth made the half-elf wonder when the draconic kobold had brushed its teeth last. "My name is Cadmus." Cadmus introduced himself as he rested his claws on Lux's shoulders, holding him in a vice grip. "The next time we see each other, you better pray that I am not in a bad mood." Cadmus sneered at the half-elf before making a gesture for his subordinates to leave. Its meeting with Lux and his friends had been completely by accident. The Draconic Kobold was only able to detect Lux's location because the Kobold sorcerer that the half-elf fought in the Kobold's nest had subtly left a faint magical mark on his body. This allowed any Kobold to sense his general direction. Lux didn't know that after the raid on their nest, the Kobolds had made him their public enemy #1. They were a race that kept grudges, especially grudges that involved the death of their kin. The half-elf watched the Draconic Kobold spread its wings and fly towards the sky. He knew that if the dwarf captain hadn't arrived, he would have definitely been captured and perhaps dragged back to their nest to be tortured. It's been a while since I felt this way, Lux thought as he clenched his right fist. This feeling of helplessness. I hate this feeling. Lux remembered the times when he fainted after exerting his body. After he regained consciousness, that feeling of helplessness would wash over him, making him feel depressed. However, this time it was different. He was no longer the same half-elf that he was a year ago. Now, he had been given a chance to become strong and catch up to his friends who had started their own journeys many years ago. It was not only kobolds who carried a grudge. Lux could also be petty at times, so he took Cadmus' words to heart. Although he was much weaker than the rank 5 monster that looked down on him, he knew that it was only a matter of time before he caught up to it. Lux had only been in Elysium for a few months, but his combined stats had already far exceeded the requirements of the beginner zone. As the half-elf gazed at his soul book, a sneer appeared on his face. Name: Lux von Kaiser. Age: 16. Race: half-elf. Rank: none. Health: 11,960/11,960. Mana: 940/940. Strength: 46 plus 3. Intelligence: 46 plus 1. Vitality: 31. Agility: 34 plus 3. Dexterity: 31 plus 3. Free stat points available: 580. Special abilities: Skill Evolution EX, Mana Drain EX, Item Transmutation EX. Active skills: Power Shot, Dark Arrow, Fury Slash, Double Fury Slash, Battle Cry. Passive skills: Enhanced Fortitude, Expert Parry. Your name is Cadmus, right? Lux thought as he stared at the monster that was flying away from his location. I'll remember your name. Lux knew that there would come a day when his strength surpassed the arrogant Draconic Kobold. Although he and the Kobold's conflict was over for now, his grudge against Cadmus, who intended to capture him, would remain. Elysium was a world where only the strong survived. Since that was the case, then the other party shouldn't blame him for being cruel when the time comes. He was certain that Cadmus would be forced to leave the territory of Noria after his rank broke through a certain threshold. Although the chances were slim, Lux believed that he would meet Cadmus again in the future. When that time came, the grudge that bloomed on this day would be repaid in full. It's fine, Eiko. The ugly kobold is gone, Lux said as he lightly patted the still shivering baby slime on his shoulder. Eiko had been subjected to the skill, Dragon's Fear, that Cadmus had released to make Colette and his friends lose their strength and will to fight. This was the first time that Eiko met such a fearsome monster, so she was unable to stop her natural instinct from taking hold of her body when the dragon fear hit her. After a few more minutes of coaxing, the baby slime finally settled down as she hid inside Lux's robe in order to feel safe and warm. Still, that was a close call, big brother, Colette said. If one listened carefully, they could trace the lingering fear in her words. If you didn't have the medal with you, things might have gotten out of hand. Helen, who was seated beside Colette, nodded her head in agreement. Big brother, I didn't know that you were now an honorary knight of this kingdom, Helen commented. You are the third person I know that has received an honorary knight title from His Majesty. Maddie eyed Lux with an envious look on his face as he tried to pry answers out of him. How did you get that Medal of Honor? Maddie asked. What kind of achievement did you do in order to get enough merit to receive an honorary knight title? Lux glanced at the simp dwarf as he proudly raised his chin. Did you forget? I saved your bum in the kobold's nest, Lux replied. The dwarf king thought that what I did was awesome, so he bestowed this reward on me. If you want to be like me, You better get good, you henpecked simp. Simp. Aiko poked out of Lux's robes as she joined her papa in teasing Maddie. The baby slime even giggled and called Maddie simp one more time before going back inside Lux's robes. Who are you calling a henpecked simp? I'm not a simp. Maddie rebuked Lux's statement. Maddie, be quiet, Colette said as she glared at the dwarf. He instantly folded and immediately shut his trap. You might scare Aiko. Okay, Maddie replied before glaring at Lux. Lux chuckled and wanted to say, see? But in the end, he chose to hold back and give Maddie some face. Although the simp dwarf bickered with him whenever an opportunity arose, Lux finally understood that it was just Maddie's way of interacting with him. The riders of Noria, who had come due to the appearance of the draconic kobold, could only shake their heads due to how silly the children's conversations were. In order to prevent the kobolds from sneak attacking Lux once again, they decided to just escort him straight to their stronghold and prevent any trouble from arising. The group traveled for half a day before arriving at the base of a mountain, where the stronghold of Noria stood. Lux was quite surprised because the stronghold was just as big as the Wildguard stronghold where he had grown up since he was a baby. Welcome to the stronghold of Noria, the captain of the riders said with a smile. We don't usually allow outsiders to enter our domain, but you guys are an exception. Please, follow me and do not wander around after we've arrived at our destination. Lux and the dwarves nodded their heads in understanding. Although they wanted to take a stroll inside the stronghold, they held back this urge for the time being until they got permission from Noram, who was the supreme commander of the stronghold. Without taking any detours, the dwarf captain took their guests to the barracks where another dwarf captain was waiting for them. Before Lux and the others left the village, they had asked the dwarf captain, Boreas, who was stationed in Leaf Village, to send a message to the stronghold to announce their arrival. Because of this, though Ram was able to make preparations beforehand and even sent the dwarf captain to escort them to their domain. Fortunately, he had done that, or else Lux might have been captured by the draconic kobold and might have suffered a lot from their thirst for revenge. Let's head to the stables first, the dwarf captain named Gustal said with a smile. Lord Nevriel is there and is already waiting for your arrival. Lux's eyes were suddenly filled with expectations because Nevriel had promised him several things before the two of them parted not too long ago. 5 minutes later, they arrived at the stables where several dwarves were looking at a 2-meter-tall horse, whose body was completely black. Purplish flames blazed brightly near its feet and the edge of the mane and tail, which made it seem intimidating to those that were seeing it for the first time. Beautiful. This was the word that escaped Lux's lips as he stared at the majestic creature in front of him. Glad you like it, Nevriel said as he walked towards Lux with a smug expression on his face. Took me some time to bring the nightmare to this place. However, are you sure you'll be able to tame this beast? Not that I doubt your words, but even the stable master in the royal capital couldn't make it obedient. Lux scratched his head because he also didn't know if Diablo would be able to tame the beast or not. The only thing he knew was that his named creature was a skeletal rider and was well versed in taming beasts that could serve as its mount. We'll find out soon enough, Lux said. Come forth, Diablo. Lux's firstborn appeared in front of him and gazed at the nightmare horse in the distance. As if sensing its gaze, the nightmare also turned its head towards Diablo, who was seizing him up. The two monsters stared at each other for a full minute before Diablo leaped towards the enclosed area where the nightmare was currently being held in. The nightmare neighed fiercely as it stomped its foot, while looking at the skeleton in front of it. Clearly, it didn't like anyone intruding on its personal space. Kakik! Diablo chuckled as it summoned its shield and sword. The dwarves who were standing behind the fence all cheered as they waited for a good show to start. All of them tried to tame a nightmare, but the latter was too aggressive to be tamed. The beast was currently a rank 2 monster, which spelled trouble for those that were weaker than it. It was fast and had both short and long ranged attacks in its arsenal, making it a troublesome opponent for those who attempted to deal with it unprepared. 5 gold coins that the nightmare will smash that skeleton to pieces, one of the dwarves said as he started to bet with his friends. 10 gold coins for the nightmare. 5 gold coins for the skeleton. Although I'm not confident in its chances, I like to bet on the underdogs. The dwarves became rowdy as they started to pool gold coins for their bets. Colette and the others were itching to join them, but were stopped by Lux. Kids shouldn't gamble, Lux told them with a serious expression on his face. It might turn into an addiction. Because of this, the young dwarves reluctantly nodded their heads and simply watched the two monsters that were facing each other. Aiko found this fight to be interesting too, so she perched on top of Lux's head to get a better view of the battle. As a battle junkie herself, Aiko wanted to learn as many strategies as she could about how to fight. This way, she would be able to beat the unicorn, Astra, the next time she visited her mama in Barbados Academy. Good luck, Diablo, Lux muttered. Make that nightmare submit to your will. Lux had full confidence that Diablo would be able to tame the proud monster whose body started to blaze fiercely. Clearly, the nightmare had deemed Diablo as a strong opponent, so it didn't plan on holding back. Diablo, on the other hand, gazed at the nightmare horse in front of him. It had long wanted to use its ability to its fullest, but the lack of a mount made him unable to do so. Now that an opportunity presented itself, he would not hesitate to use everything in his power to make the nightmare yield and become his new mount. The loud neighing of the nightmare made everyone pay attention to the battle that was about to start. Diablo was like a black knight as it held a sword and a shield in each hand in a defensive position. Nevriel scratched his head as he looked at Lux's summon before glancing at the half-elf who was cheering for the skeleton, alongside the baby slime on his head. Is this how you plan to tame the nightmare? Nevriel asked with a dumbfounded look on his face. Lux hummed. Don't tell anyone. It is a trade secret. What a bunch of nonsense. Relax. Just watch and learn. Lux looked confident on the surface, but deep inside, he was wondering if Diablo's strategy to tame the wild nightmare was going to work. The fiery horse was a true rank 2 monster, which was of the same rank as Diablo. Lux wanted to think that both were evenly matched, but there was one small problem. Skeletons were weak against fire, life, healing, and holy magic. The nightmare was able to conjure purple flames to aid it in battle, which made the untamed Mount Diablo's worst matchup. Even so, the half-elf felt that everything would just be fine. After all, his named creature had never let him down when it really mattered. Suddenly, the nightmare coated its entire body in purplish flames as it ran towards Diablo with the intention to ram him. The dwarves who were watching the battle smirked because they anticipated that the skeleton's body would crumble even if it was just grazed by the nightmare's attack. However, to their surprise, Diablo did something unthinkable. Diablo leaped high up in the air before throwing his shield like a frisbee towards the nightmare's head. A metallic sound reverberated in the surroundings the moment the shield collided with the nightmare's head, dispelling the flames that coated its body. But Diablo's attack wasn't over yet. After throwing the shield, Dawn, to disorient the monster in front of him, Lux's named skeleton took another shield out of its inventory. He then charged towards the side of the nightmare, ramming its body, which sent it skidding a few meters away and neighing in pain. As a rank 2 monster, the nightmare quickly recovered its footing and summoned 2 fire lances and shot them in Diablo's direction. Diablo didn't back down and fired 2 bone spears consecutively, which negated the attacks that were aimed at him. After the battle against the kobold sorcerer in the kobold's nest, Diablo had learned how to fight against spellcasters with long-range attacks. Also, Lux had helped him a bit by casting Battle Cry, which raised his physical and magical damage by 100 points, allowing him to overcome his elemental weakness. Go Diablo! Colette raised her fist as she cheered. Diablo go! Aiko lightly jumped on Lux's head, as she also cheered for her papa's named creature. Nevriel rubbed his chin as he looked at the 2 monsters inside the monster pen. Not bad, Nevriel stated. It's no wonder you were able to capture the mastermind behind the Figaro incident. Lux didn't say anything and simply smiled. Although it didn't show on his face, he was worried about Diablo's chances of taking down the nightmare. By this time, the fiery horse had already realized that its opponent wasn't a pushover. However, because of its stubborn nature, it refused to believe that Diablo was better than it. As the flames on its body burned brightly, 8 flaming lances appeared around it. Their tip was pointed at the skeleton that was currently standing perfectly still, as if he was just a mere target that was waiting for destruction. However, before the nightmare could even fire the lances that it had conjured, Diablo pointed his sword at the nightmare, which made its body involuntarily charge forward. Due to the loss of concentration, the spears that it had summoned disappeared, leaving only traces of ember behind. Diablo had activated its skill, Duel EX, which forced his target to exchange one blow with him. As the nightmare angrily charged forward, Diablo leaped up to the air at the last minute and fired a bone spear at his opponent's backside. Everyone who saw this scene flinched, and some of them even subconsciously placed their hands over their backside as their faces winced in pain. The nightmare neighed in pain as well as shame, as Diablo's bone spear pierced the one place that would make anyone go down on their knees. The corner of Nevriel's lips twitched when he saw this shameless display of skill. Although this seemed to be an effective way to tame the wild mounts that refused to submit to anyone, he still found Diablo's method too crude and unorthodox. If I mentioned this method to the royal stablemaster, he would definitely shout in anger and call me mad, Nevriel thought as he tossed the idea to the back of his mind. The dwarf then watched as Diablo walked towards a horse that had fallen on the ground and lightly stepped on the bone spear that was still embedded on its backside. Kakik. Diablo chuckled as it looked at the nightmare's defiant expression. However, that stubbornness soon disappeared after it saw Diablo summoning another bone spear in its hand. Seeing that his opponent had surrendered, Diablo placed his hand over its head as he activated the taming spell. The nightmare was enveloped with a purplish glow before disappearing from the monster pen. Lux then summoned his soul book as he went to check Diablo's page to see the status of his mount. To his surprise, the mount received a page of its own, which also showed its stats and abilities. Diablo walked up to Lux as it peeked at his soul book to look at his new partner in crime. "Do you want to give him a name?" Lux asked because the nightmare's page allowed him to bestow a name to Diablo's new mount. Diablo rubbed his chin before nodding his head. He then tapped Lux's chest twice, before tapping the nightmare's portrait, indicating his intention of letting his master choose a name for his new steed. Understood. Lux nodded as he thought of a good name for the stubborn horse that refused to be tamed in the past. After several minutes had passed, Lux lightly tapped the nightmare's page as he used his finger to write the name that he had thought of. Arion, Lux said softly. From now on, your name will be Arion, the mighty horse that the heroes rode into battle. Diablo nodded his head in satisfaction before turning into particles of light. Now that he had his own mount to carry him into battle, he would finally be able to unleash the full power of the Skeleton Rider class, which Lux had bestowed unto him. "Here are the weapons and armor that you wanted," Nevriel said as he led Lux to the warehouse. All of them were made by the blacksmith here in Noria, and their quality is a cut from the rest. Use them well. Lux looked at the rows of weapons and sets of armor that Nevriel had prepared for him. He then secretly used the Elysium Compendium to appraise them and see their stats. One-handed steel sword. Rating rare. Standard weaponry of the warriors of Noria. Increase physical damage by 10%. Attack 35 to 50. Longbow of Noria. Rarity rare. Standard weaponry of the warriors of Noria. Increase range damage by 10%. Attack 45 to 60. Noria light plate armor set. Rarity rare. Standard armor of the warriors of Noria. Decrease physical damage received by 10%. Defense 100. Lux smiled in satisfaction as he gazed at the 20 sets of weapons and armor that Nevriel generously gave him. "Thank you," Lux said. "This means a lot to me." Nevriel waved his hand as if this wasn't a big deal to him. "With this, all debts have been settled," Nevriel replied. "We no longer owe you anything." Lux nodded as he acknowledged Nevriel's words. The dwarves had generously rewarded him for his help during the raid in the kobold's nest in order to save Robin. Although the half-elf now had a hunch of who the snobbish dwarf boy was, he had no intention of revealing this to the others. After all, it was only a hunch at the moment, and until it was verified, he shouldn't tell anyone about it. "I have also talked to the commander about your other request," Nevriel frowned as he gazed at the red-headed teenager in front of him. Are you sure you want to enter the C-rank dungeon that is under the jurisdiction of the stronghold of Noria? It might still be too early for you and those kids. Are you sure you want to do it? Don't worry, we're just going to take a look inside, Lux answered. If it's really too much, then we will just use our teleport crystals to leave that place. Nevriel could only reluctantly nod his head after hearing Lux's words. The C-rank dungeon, Orc Dominion, was a 12-man team dungeon. Although it could be challenged, even if the number of people in the party didn't reach 12, it was still highly recommended to challenge it using a full party. These dungeons were quite special, and they also had another name, and that was instance dungeons. Instance dungeons were dungeons that would generate a similar copy of the entire dungeon for every party that entered it. Meaning, although everyone was challenging the same dungeon, they would be in a different version of the dungeon, allowing each team to challenge it without worrying about other people interfering with their expedition. A 12-man dungeon meant that it was highly recommended to challenge it with 12 people instead of the usual party of 6 or 7. There were also 50-man dungeons and 100-man dungeons. On very rare occasions, SSR-ranked dungeons would suddenly appear in Elysium. This type of dungeon required 1,000 people in order to clear it. This dungeon was an open-world dungeon, in which they needed to fight a Calamity-ranked world boss, which could drop legendary items once it was defeated. Okay, I will wait for you at the barracks while you finish storing the equipment, Nevriel said before leaving the warehouse. Although he was very doubtful whether Lux and his friends would be able to clear the dungeon or not, he still gave the half-elf the benefit of the doubt. The Orc Dominion dungeon was the place where the warriors of Noria would train after they had become Grade C apostles. The boss monster inside, it was a rank 3 alpha monster called the Dark-Skinned Orc Chieftain. It was a monster that was slightly stronger than the red-eyed Terramantis, and was very hard to kill because of its strength and tenacity. It also had a berserk ability, which made it extremely dangerous once its health was dangerously low. Okay guys, time to suit up. Lux smirked as he opened his soul book and equipped the weapons and armor to his skeleton fighters and skeleton grand archers. Ishtar wore the new armor as well, increasing her defense. Although she would be attacking her enemies from a distance, having armor was still better than not having any. To Lux's surprise, when it was Diablo's turn to equip the armor, his named creature decided to turn it down. When Lux asked him why, his named creature used his sword to write down 2 words on the ground. Black armor. Those were the words that Diablo wrote, which made Lux scratch his head. This was the first time that Diablo told him his preferences, so he decided to respect his decision. I guess I better look for dark armor sets for him in the future, Lux thought. I'll ask Grandma if she still has some black armor available. If not, I'll just have it custom made for him. When all of his summons had properly equipped their weapons and armor, the half-elf stored the rest of it in his inventory. He was sure that he would be able to use them in the future after the number of his summons had increased. For now, he left the warehouse in a good mood as he looked for Colette and the others who were busy sparring with the veteran soldiers of Noria. The little dwarfs were steadily getting stronger and were nearing the apostle rank. Lux knew that it was only a matter of time before they parted ways with each other, so he decided to challenge the C-rank dungeon with them. Although he didn't know if they would agree to his request or not, he hoped that they would. After all, he was confident that if they all worked together, they would be able to overcome the alpha monster that was considered to be one of the strongest monsters in the territory of Noria. So, do you guys want to come with me and challenge a C-rank dungeon? Lux asked the dwarves who were currently having afternoon tea together. Colette blinked once then twice before tilting her head to the side. A C-rank dungeon? Lux nodded. Yes, it is a dungeon that belongs to the stronghold of Noria. Only their elite warriors can challenge it. Lucky for us, I got permission to challenge it. So, do you guys want to come along or not? Helen, who was currently holding Aiko in her hand, looked at Lux with eyes that were as wide as saucers. Big brother, aren't C-ranked dungeons too advanced for our current ranks? Helen asked. We haven't even entered the apostle rank yet. If I remember correctly, monsters inside a C-rank dungeon are all rank 2 up to rank 3 monsters. Their bosses are also rank 3 alpha monsters. I don't think that we can handle it. No, you're wrong, Helen, Maddie commented. That is only applicable for the normal mode of a C-rank dungeon. In Nightmare mode, all the monsters are rank 3, and the boss is a rank 4 alpha beast. The dwarf boy stared at Lux with a serious expression on his face. If he is with us, clearing the normal mode is possible. But Nightmare mode is just plain suicide. Although rank 3 monsters were strong, they were weaker than the carbuncle that they had fought in the Aspiration Plains. Maddie believed that they still had a chance to beat them if they entered the normal mode. The only problem would be the boss monster. It was a rank 3 alpha beast, which was even stronger than the red-eyed Pteromantis that they had no hope of beating with their current strength. Big brother, are you going to challenge the Nightmare mode? Colette asked in a worried tone. Of course not. Lux shook his head. I'm not stupid. Lux knew that challenging the Nightmare mode of Orc Dominion was indeed suicide. However, that didn't mean that he wouldn't challenge it in the future. The Elysium Compendium had told him about the quest that could be acquired inside the Orc Dominion, even if it was in normal mode. The rewards were also amazing, but this was a once-and-forever deal. If someone had finished the quest already, then the reward would be gone forever. Lux wanted to know if someone had already cleared this hidden mission. If not, he would be more than happy to share the rewards with his friends. Don't worry, Lux assured them. We can always use teleport crystals to leave the dungeon if it's too much for us. Maddie crossed his arms over his chest. How about the split of the beast cores and monster drops? Unlike the monsters in the outside world, when the monsters inside of a dungeon died, their bodies would disappear and they would drop items like beast cores, weapons, and other monster parts exclusive to them. Maddie, Colette glared at the dwarf boy, but Maddie didn't budge. Although he liked Colette a lot, he would not allow others to take advantage of her kindness. We will split the rewards evenly among all of us, Lux answered with a smile. He had no intention of taking all the monster loot for himself. The only thing he was really after was the generous rewards attached to the hidden mission for those who were the first to clear it. Hidden mission, I wish for Dominion. The first Orc chief, who founded this empire hundreds of years ago, left his relics scattered across his territory. Those who are lucky enough to stumble upon them will gain the treasures that he left behind for the future generations. Rewards, Potion of Vitality. This potion adds plus 50 permanent vitality points to the one who consumes it. You can only consume one potion of vitality in your lifetime. Rank 3 skill book of your choice. You'll be able to choose any skill that is rank 3 and below from the treasury of the Orc Empire. Bonus rewards. These were the rewards that were available for the hidden quest inside the Orc Dominion dungeon. When Lux found out about it, he was already dead set on checking to see if the quest was still available. Although the Potion of Vitality didn't seem much, it was quite precious for those who were just starting their journey in Elysium. However, the real prize that Lux coveted was the rank 3 skill book of his choice. With his special ability, Skill Evolution, EX, an ordinary skill would be upgraded one stage higher, making it more powerful. These rewards would be available to all, meaning Colette and the others would also get a Potion of Vitality, as well as the rank 3 skill of their choice. As for the bonus rewards, Lux was also very curious on what kind of rewards he would be able to get from C-rank dungeons hidden quest. I'll go with you, big brother. Colette raised her hand readily. Me too. Helen also raised her hand with a smile on her face. She still hadn't returned Lux's favor of saving her friends, so she was more than willing to accompany him on his dungeon expedition. Yai. Aiko also jumped up and down from Helen's palm. It was her way of telling Lux that she wanted to go as well. Andy and Axel also nodded their heads. As for Maddie, Lux didn't even need to ask if the henpecked boy was going or not. As long as Colette wanted to go, the simp dwarf was going to follow. All right, let's go, Lux said with a smile. After everyone prepared their gear, they went to find Nevriel, who took them to a hidden door inside the barracks that led them underground. After a few minutes of walking, they arrived at a silver gate that was guarded by a dozen riders of Noria. If one looked closely, the face of an orc could be seen etched on the surface of the gate. It was a ferocious-looking image that seemed to intimidate those who wished to enter its domain. Helen, who was the most timid in the group, flinched when she saw the image on the gate. Seeing this, Colette immediately held her hand, and gave it a light squeeze of comfort. Lux smiled when he noticed this scene and affirmed that Colette really had what it takes to be a leader. Her great observation skills allowed her to notice minute changes in her friend's body language and use the most appropriate method to deal with it. Lux then shifted his attention to Nevriel and the dwarf who seemed to be the captain that guarded this dungeon. He knew that Nevriel had to pull some strings in order for them to be allowed to challenge the dungeon that was exclusively used by the Riders of Noria. Lord Nevriel, are they the ones who plan to challenge the Orc Dominion? The captain of the dwarves that were assigned to guard the dungeon's entrance asked. Yes, Nevriel nodded. The dwarf captain looked at the half-elf as well as the little dwarves with a complicated expression on his face. But they're not even of the apostle rank, the dwarf captain commented. Also, there are only 6 people. This dungeon is meant for 12 people. I don't think that they are fit to challenge this dungeon. Nevriel frowned. He also understood this matter, and also thought that Lux was eating more than he could chew. However, before he could even reply, Lux stepped forward and smiled at the guard. Captain, we are just here to experience what it is like to fight against stronger opponents, Lux explained. We want to know what we could do once we met monsters of similar rank in the wild. As you know, there are times when we encounter monsters that are leagues above our rank. I want my friends and me to experience what it is like to face such monsters, so in the future, we will not freeze up and become paralyzed with fear. Although this may sound silly right now, I believe that the ability to adapt to such situations will save our lives in the future. The guards who were guarding the entrance couldn't stop themselves from nodding their heads in agreement. As soldiers of the kingdom, they were duty-bound to ensure that the territory of Noria was safe from all threats. There were occasions like monster outbreaks, in which mutated monsters would suddenly appear out of nowhere, posing great danger to everyone. The ability to quickly make decisions in the face of life and death situations would indeed increase their chances of survival. Very well. The dwarf captain reluctantly nodded his head to acknowledge Lux's explanation. Each of you will take 1 teleport crystal that is exclusive to this dungeon. If you really can't hang on, just use it. Being stubborn will only lead to death, which will automatically eject you out of the dungeon. The penalty is harsh, but compared to dying in real life, is a small price to pay. Lux happily took the teleport crystal that was handed to him by one of the guards. He understood that this was just a safety precaution, and he would really not want to lose his current stats just because of stubbornness. After Colette and the others were given their own teleport crystals, the dwarf captain stepped aside and made a gesture for Lux to step forward. The half-elf nodded his head and pressed his palm over the gate of the dungeon. A row of text appeared in front of him. Choose your difficulty setting. Normal. Nightmare. Just as Lux was about to click the normal mode with his fingertip, Echo jumped from Lux's head and landed on the back of Lux's hand, making him press the nightmare mode by mistake. Immediately, his group disappeared from the entrance of the dungeon. A few seconds later, Nevriel, the dwarf captain as well as the other dwarf guards gasped in shock because the eyes of the orc that was etched on the gate's surface blazed a fiery red. This only meant one thing and one thing only. That brat. The dwarf captain scratched his head in frustration because he didn't know if he should smack Lux or not due to his stupidity. Fortunately, they have their teleport crystals in hand. Nevriel patted the dwarf captain's shoulder to calm him down. Let's just wait for a bit. I'm sure that they will come out sooner or later. The dwarf captain sighed and nodded his head. Since it was already done, the only thing they could do was to wait for Lux's group to return after experiencing the nightmare mode of Orc Dominion. Lux looked at the baby slime on his hands, who was also looking back at him with a smile. After checking his Elysium Compendium, which had activated its dungeon exploration function, Lux was able to see the difficulty level of the dungeon that they were about to challenge. Orc Dominion, Nightmare Mode, *T. Lux cursed internally as he confirmed his worst fears. The half-elf scanned his surroundings and found himself in what seemed to be a valley, with several trees scattered all around. In the distance, he could see a fortress-like stronghold that had a flag fluttering in the wind that depicted 2 axes crossed over the other. The dwarves who were standing beside him had pale expressions on their faces because they clearly heard a voice in their head say, that they had now entered the nightmare difficulty of Orc Dominion. Big brother, Colette asked. I thought we were just going to challenge the normal mode. That was the plan, Lux replied. But Aiko jumped on my hand and accidentally made me choose the wrong difficulty. The baby slime tilted its head innocently to the side, as if she didn't have an idea about what she did. Lux could only pick up Aiko and put her back on top of his head before turning to face the dwarves beside him. Okay, we now have two choices. The first one is to use our teleportation crystals to leave this place, Lux said. As you know, this is a one-time consumable item. If we want another one, we need to pay 10 gold coins for it. Although I'm sure that we can pay for the expense, I say that we check this place out first. Just make sure to place your teleport crystal where you can reach it immediately in case of an emergency. The dwarves nodded and placed the teleport stones in their pockets. They knew that they were biting off more than they could chew, but they were also very curious about what kind of monsters they would be fighting against inside the nightmare mode of Orc Dominion. Okay, let's go, Lux said as he stepped forward. The first thing he wanted to know was whether the quest had been completed or not. The Elysium Compendium could only show the locations inside the dungeon that would activate the hidden quest. It didn't know if the quest had been completed in the past or not. For now, follow me, Lux ordered. If we meet any monsters along the way, we will first assess if we can beat them or not. The challenge rating we chose is the Nightmare mode of a C-rank dungeon. At the very least, the weakest enemy that is roaming around this area are all rank 2 monsters. The dwarves nodded their heads in understanding. The strongest monsters that they had fought so far were berserk-horned rabbits, rank 2 monster, and a mutated carbuncle, rank 3 peak alpha monster. The Orc Dominion Instance Dungeon was not the typical dungeon where those who entered needed to challenge each floor in order to advance. This dungeon was an open-world, fortress assault type of dungeon, and the only way to beat the game was by defeating the Orc Chieftain who could be found inside the stronghold. In short, this dungeon was a training ground for how to raid an Orc stronghold with an elite team of fighters. All of the warriors of Noria needed to undergo this trial in order to officially join the Riders of Noria and become part of the Guellivan border army. Let's go, Clover! Colette raised her hand and a half-a-meter-tall carbuncle appeared beside her. After going back to Solais, Colette had asked the monster breeder in their family to help hatch the egg. Right now, Clover had the strength of a rank 1 monster. It specialized in healing its allies and increasing their movement speed with haste. Once it had grown into an adult, it would be capable of becoming a mount, which would allow Colette to increase her mobility during mounted battles. After walking for 5 minutes, Lux raised his hand to gesture for everyone to stop. He then made a gesture for them to crouch down and follow him to the bushes. After a while, he pointed in a direction, and the dwarves found the reason why Lux had asked them to hide. 2 pig-like monsters, which had green skin, sauntered through the trees. They were at least 2 meters tall and armed with a war axe. They were regular Orc warriors that made up the bulk of the Orc army. Orc warriors, Lux thought. Each of them were rank 2 monsters and was a rookie's worst nightmare if they happened to encounter them in the wild alone. The reason why Lux was able to know their location was due to the map that the Elysium Compendium provided. After experimenting with the compendium, Lux found out that it had a special auto mode function that gave him access to features such as appraise, show map, show quest locations, and many more things after he merged it with his soul book. Similar to a game, Lux could see a mini map at the upper right side of his vision, which he could expand anytime he wanted. Naturally, if he went to a place that he had never gone before, the map would be blank. However, because of its special function, the Elysium Compendium allowed Lux to detect enemies within 100 meters, even if they were in an unexplored area of his map. After making sure that there were indeed only 2 enemies in the immediate area, Lux glanced at the dwarves, and they all nodded back to him. I'll take the one on the left, Lux said. All of you handle the one on the right. Okay, Colette replied as she firmly gripped the mace in her hand. We're ready, big brother. Lux nodded as he summoned 4 of his skeletal fighters. He didn't want to summon Diablo yet, because he wanted to see how his regular warriors handled facing off against a rank 2 monster with their current strength. Battle cry. Lux activated his skill that added plus 100 points to physical and magical attacks. He then ordered for his skeletal fighters to charge at the two orcs, giving Colette and the others ample time to prepare. Just as expected, when the two orcs saw the skeletons, they immediately turned to confront them head-on. "Now," Colette ordered. The blonde-haired dwarf, as well as her sidekick, Maddie, sprang into action and charged at one of the orcs that had engaged their enemies in combat. Both of them were nearing the apostle rank, so they could be considered as strong as rank 1 monsters. Of course, the one they were fighting against was a bona fide rank 2 monster, so they were taking this battle seriously. Andy and Axel chanted their spells and waited for the perfect opportunity to use them. Colette smashed her mace against the orc's legs with a growl, which didn't look compatible with her adorable appearance. The orc screamed in pain and was about to slash her with its weapon when a fire bullet and a water bullet hit its chest consecutively, pushing it back. Maddie took this opportunity to use his 2 short swords to slash at its legs, drawing blood. Unfortunately, the orc warrior was able to recover right away and swatted Colette and Maddie away with the war axe in his hand. Colette blocked its blade, but she was still sent flying a few meters away due to the orc's incredible strength. Maddie, on the other hand, was able to evade the orc's attack, and even managed to counterattack by stabbing the orc's right leg. The orc growled in anger and backhanded Maddie, sending him skidding across the ground. The dwarf boy's face contorted in pain because the blow almost broke his right arm. If not for the fact that Helen had given him a protective spell that mitigated the damage he received from the orc's attack, he might have ended up with more than just a simple break. Clover ran in Maddie's direction and cast a healing spell on him, allowing him to recover just in time to evade the orc's follow-up attack. Andy and Axel followed up with their magical spells in order to give Maddie enough time to distance himself from the rank 2 monster. The latter was quite difficult to take down due to its high strength and vitality. It was at that moment when one of Lux's skeletons was smashed into pieces by the orc that they were fighting against. Although the orc warrior was wounded all over due to the 4 skeletons' teamwork, its ferocity was something that Lux admired. The 3 remaining skeletons immediately felt the increasing pressure after the death of one of their comrades in battle. They found themselves being pushed back by the orc warrior's powerful blows. It was at this moment when a stone spike pierced the orc's shoulder, making it scream in pain. "Spike!" Aiko shouted and fired another earth spike at the enemy, which embedded itself in her target's waist. Lux had allowed her to join the battle, so he could see how Aiko fared against a rank 2 monster, while being flanked by his skeletal fighters. The orc then roared in anger as he swept its weapon in one mighty swing, using its skill called Cleave. The skeletal fighters raised their shields to block the attack, but they were still sent skidding a few meters away due to the impact. Aiko, on the other hand, took this opportunity to shoot another earth spike, which conveniently hit the orc's chest, causing it to cough blood. Wanting to continue her attack, the baby slime teleported 2 meters away from the orc's face and unleashed one of her upgraded spells. "Fireball!" Aiko shouted, and a ball of flame materialized in front of her, which exploded in the orc's face, burning it to a crisp. The orc had been heavily injured by the skeletal fighters and Aiko's earlier sneak attacks. All it needed was a finishing blow to end its life, and the baby slime didn't miss the opportunity to deliver the finishing blow. A few seconds later, a green-colored beast core dropped on the ground, alongside the war axe that the orc was carrying. Aiko unceremoniously ate the beast core, before blinking consecutively until she landed on Lux's head with a satisfied expression on his face. She was quite proud of her performance and decided to eat the beast core as her reward, which made Lux feel helpless. Well, as long as she is happy, I guess it's fine. Lux thought as he shifted his attention to the orc that Colette and Maddie were flanking. After a shout that was filled with unwillingness, the orc finally collapsed on the ground, leaving a beast core and its weapon behind. Immediately after that, Colette and Maddie sat on the ground, panting for breath. It was then that the little dwarves realized how hard it was to challenge a rank C. Aiko happily chewed the beast core she just stuffed in her mouth as she looked at Colette's and Maddie's exhausted expressions after they defeated the orc warrior that was assigned to them. Unlike the berserk horned rabbits that specialized in speed, their opponent specialized in strength, and it also had very high health. Although both were rank 2 monsters, the difference in their fighting style was obvious to the naked eye. Lux rubbed his chin as he checked the health of his skeleton fighters after the battle. Most of them were almost out of health, which showed how tough the battle was for them. If I summoned all 7 skeletal fighters, Diablo, Ishtar, and the skeleton Grand Archers, to fight side by side with Colette and the others, I estimate that we can fight against 5 to 7 rank 2 monsters at the same time, Lux thought. If there's a rank 3 monster among the group, we can at most fight 3 to 4 rank 2 monsters, while Diablo keeps the stronger monster at bay. Suddenly, a notification broke Lux out of his pondering. After reading the notification, he was unable to stop his lips from twitching. Aiko learned the passive skill Tough. Tough. Add plus 30 points to Vitality. Aiko activated the skill Mimicry EX. Target Lux von Kaiser. Successfully copied Skill Evolution EX. Skill Evolution EX detected a new skill. Since the skill Tough is a passive skill, it will automatically be upgraded to Very Tough. Very Tough adds plus 60 points to Vitality. Aiko. The world is my oyster. Named Slime Monster. Rating E. Progress 20/2000. Health 3850/3850. Mana 7500/7500. Strength 17. Intelligence 150. Vitality 77. Agility 17. Dexterity 17. Very Tough? Seriously? Lux didn't know if he should laugh or cry due to his baby slime's cheat-like ability. Aiko managed to get a massive boost to her vitality points just from eating a single beast core thanks to Lux's skill. Of course, Lux was also very happy for her because the stronger the baby slime became, the more help she would be to him in Elysium. If only she wasn't a troublemaker. Lux shook his head helplessly. However, he now had a better understanding of one of the skills that was available to orc warriors after Aiko had consumed the beast core. I need that tough skill as well. Diablo and Ishtar would benefit from it too. After Colette and Maddie each consumed a stamina potion, the group once again continued to follow Lux as he guided them to their destination. We're here, Lux thought as he looked at the small wooden cottage that was built in an inconspicuous place, which wouldn't be noticed by someone who traveled along the main road. He hurriedly went inside to check if the item he was looking for was still there, which would confirm whether someone had already cleared the hidden quest or not. When he opened the door, the sight of a properly maintained cottage could be seen. There were no cobwebs or any other signs that it hadn't been tended to for a long time. Clearly, someone was still living or recently lived inside the cottage for it to look like this. This is a good place to rest, Colette said as she stepped inside the room. Is this the place you want to take us to, Big Brother? Lux nodded. Yes, but we didn't come here to rest. I'm here to check something out. Check something out? MMM. Lux walked straight towards the fireplace and stared at the bull ornament above it. An adult dwarf wouldn't be able to reach it unless they use a chair or something similar to help them gain that added leverage. Orcs could easily reach it if they wanted to, but Lux crossed that possibility off. Since this was a dungeon for orcs, the mission didn't include them in it. Lux was still growing, so he wasn't that tall. Also, due to the imbalance between his soul and body for the past few years, he hadn't reached his growth spurt yet. Only after Ariel helped him stabilize his body did his bodily functions finally get back on the right track. According to his estimate, he would be able to reach his optimal height after a year. Since that was the case, he lowered his pride and reached out for a chair, which made the dwarves look at him with curiosity. Now that he stood on top of a chair, Lux could easily reach the ornament. He held the 2 horns of the bull and pushed it upwards. The sound of something moving was heard inside the cottage, which made the dwarves scan their surroundings in alarm. Relax. Everything is fine, Lux assured them as he climbed down from the chair and headed towards the large bed, located in the upper left corner of the room. "Maddie, Alex, Andy, help me move this bed to the side," Lux said as he asked the dwarves for help. Maddie grumbled, but he still went to help Lux move the bed according to his instructions. Colette and Helen, who remained standing to the side, just watched the boys move the large bed that could easily fit an orc. A few moments later, everyone saw a set of stairs that seemed to be leading underground. "You guys stay here," Lux ordered. "I'll go in by myself." Lux could hear his heartbeat drumming as he walked down the set of stairs. Although the place was dark, half-elves were able to see through it with very minimal light. In his hand was a small glowstone that emitted just enough light for him to see a few meters in front. He was silently praying that no one had taken the hidden quest before him. If someone really managed to do it, then there was nothing he could do about it. After walking straight for half a minute, Lux saw a large wooden chest that was covered in a thick layer of dirt. The half-elf took a deep breath before opening the chest with both hands. There, lying inside the chest, was some kind of ragged blanket that didn't seem special. However, after seeing this, Lux breathed out a sigh of relief. It was the item he was looking for. "Fortunately, I am the first one to discover this quest," Lux muttered as he reached out to touch the item that would activate the hidden quest that he wanted to complete. "You have acquired the flag of the Blackrock clan. Ding! You have discovered the hidden quest. I wish for Dominion. Would you like to accept this quest? Yes/no." Lux decisively clicked the yes option, and a notification prompted him that the quest was now active. He was not the only one that received this notice. Colette and the others heard a voice inside their head that they had accepted the hidden quest. Lux knew that he didn't need to beat the boss of the dungeon in order to clear the quest. As long as he managed to complete it, he would get the full rewards of the mission, as well as the rewards from the dungeon, as if he had defeated the final boss. This was why hidden quests were so good. It gave twice the reward for half the effort. However, before Lux could even fully rejoice his discovery, a loud roar was heard in the living room of the cottage, followed by the shouts of Colette and the others. Lux hurriedly climbed back up the stairs to see what was happening, only to find Colette and Maddie standing in front of the others with their weapons drawn. In front of them was a half-orc holding a great sword in its hands. Its angry and bloodshot eyes glared at them. Clearly, it was not too happy to see what the uninvited guests had done to its home. "Who are you lot, and what are you doing inside my cottage?" the half-orc shouted as it threatened to brandish its sword towards the dwarves, who had taken a defensive stance against it. "We come in peace." Lux stepped forward and stood between the dwarves and the half-orc with his hands raised in surrender. "Peace," the half-orc snorted. "You come and steal from my house, and you say you come in peace? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't kill you, right here, right now." Lux frowned because according to the data that the Elysium Compendium was giving him, the half-orc in front of him was a rank 4 alpha monster. At first, Lux didn't want to believe it, but after looking at the information for the second time, he realized that it was indeed correct. The half-elf could feel beads of sweat forming on top of his head because he knew that if they really offended this half-orc in front of them, all of them would become sliced cheese in a matter of seconds. Fortunately, before he could even reply to the half-orc's question, a row of texts appeared in front of him, giving him some options to choose from. Option 1. Chaotic evil. "We came here to burn this cottage and kill you. Foul creature. A filthy half-blood like you deserves death." Option 2. Lawful good. "Sorry for intruding into your cottage, good sir. We came here with the good intention of inviting you to a seminar on how to earn money while you sleep." Option 3. True neutral. "We do not wish for conflict and would like to talk things out. However, if you are adamant in using force, we will reply in kind." Option 4. "We came here to help you with your wish for dominion." Lux knew that the first choice would instantly send all of them to the afterlife. The second option was funny, but he doubted that the half-orc was in the mood to humor them with their answer. The third choice was rather tame, and Lux was initially tempted to choose it, but he knew that these weren't the right words to say in their current circumstance either. "Sir, we came here to help you with your wish for dominion," Lux said. Immediately, the half-orc's rage changed into that of confusion. After a while, it lowered its great sword and looked at Lux with a serious expression on its face. How did you know? The half-orc asked. How do you know that I wish for dominion? Lux sighed in relief as he read the next row of text that was the answer to the half-orc's question. An orc shouldn't be judged whether he is full-blooded or not. The only thing that is important to the orcs is strength. Only the strong can rule and command the horde. Well said, the half-orc replied as it patted Lux's shoulder with its hand. Although I don't know how or why you came to know my goal, I believe that fate has brought us together. My name is Barca. Tell me your name. Half-elf. My name is Lux, and these are my friends. Lux made a gesture to introduce Colette and her friends to the half-orc. After the introduction, the half-orc walked towards his bed and pushed it back to where it once was. He then moved the horns of the bull ornament to its original position. Did you take it? Barca asked. He didn't ask what Lux took, but the meaning behind his words was very obvious to the half-elf. Yes, Lux replied. I took it. Barca nodded his head in understanding. The half-orc then sat on the floor beside the bed and took out his whetstone to sharpen his greatsword. My mother was the daughter of a tribal chief, and my father was a mighty general in the human army. They met by accident and somehow fell in love, and I was born as a result. I will not bore you with the other details, because they are not important. Since you said that you wish to help me, then are you prepared to ensure that I become the next orc chieftain? Lux nodded. That is why I am here. Then prove it. Barca took a map out of his belongings and placed it on the floor. The Elysium Compendium automatically recorded the map in Lux's soul book, allowing him to view it normally. The current orc chieftain, Audiobook, has 4 warlords that support him, Barca said as he pointed at the marked locations in the map. Tanabur of the south, Baranar of the west, Oreg of the north, and Mogazer of the east. As long as you are able to help me defeat or convince these warlords to join my side, Audiobook will lose his loyal supporters. This will give me the opportunity to challenge him in a duel in front of the other warriors for the position of Orc Chieftain. A series of notifications once again rang inside Lux's head as the information of the hidden quest was updated. Hidden quest. I wish for dominion. Bonus rewards will be calculated depending on the choices you make in this mission. Kill the 4 orc warlords, plus 500 riders of Noria reputation points. Gain 1 random pseudo-mythical weapon, armor, or artifact that belong to each of the warlord that you have slain. Gain the Orc Slayer title. Orc Slayer title. Increase damage to all orcs by 20%. Orcs will feel threatened by your presence. Negotiate with the orc warlords. Plus 1,000 riders of Noria reputation points. Plus 200 Kingdom of Guelvin reputation points, exclusive to Kingdom of Guelvin. Plus 200 gold coins. Gain Negotiator title. Negotiator title. When dealing with nobles or royalty, your chances of closing a successful deal is increased by 10%. The half-elf rubbed his chin as he pondered his next move. A chain quest. Lux thought as he looked at the information of the 4 warlords. If I choose not to kill them, then I will gain reputation points, gold coins, and a title. The half-elf then glanced at the other option, which sounded more tempting to him. Although I will not gain as many reputation points and gold coins if I chose to kill the warlords, getting 4 random pieces of pseudo-mythical gear is not a bad trade-off. Lux understood that he was far from reaching the requirements to be able to craft mythical items. First, he lacked the materials he could practice on, and his current smithing rank wasn't high enough. Aside from that, the best weapon he could make with the items available in the beginner zone were rare weapons. The half-elf was not satisfied by that, especially after experiencing the power of his master Randolph's mythical weapon, Blood Moon. Barca was closely observing Lux's expression, and the moment both of their eyes met, the half-elf as well as the half-orc smiled evilly. As if waiting for that moment, both of them laughed at the same time, which made the dwarves look at them as if the two had gone crazy. Aiko looked at her papa and the half-orc before joining them in laughter. Although she didn't understand what was going on, she felt like it would be fun if she followed her papa's actions. Lux and Barca understood that there was only one way to get what they wanted. For that to happen, only one option was left for both of them, and that was their opponent's complete and utter destruction. Since the orc warlord closest to their location was Baranar, Lux didn't hesitate to tell Barca who his first target was. The half-orc agreed and set out with him in their mission to deal with one of Oribak's loyal supporters. After checking the details of the quest in the Elysium Compendium multiple times, Lux found out that Barca's role was just like an extra fighter in their party, meaning he would help them fight with the enemies in order to help ensure the success of the mission. The half-elf was quite happy about having a rank 4 alpha monster on their side. After all, it would greatly increase their fighting power. However, there was a catch. If Barca died, the mission would automatically fail, and Lux would gain a minus 1,000 reputation points penalty with the Riders of Noria and minus 200 reputation points penalty with the Kingdom of Guelvin. He didn't know what would happen if his reputation points dropped into the negatives, so he consulted the Elysium Compendium about it. According to the Compendium, if his reputation points became negative and went lower than minus 500 points, he would be treated as a criminal in the Guelvin Kingdom. A reputation of minus 1,000 negative points would mean that the Dwarf King would place a bounty on his head, and any dwarves that he came across would automatically become hostile towards him. When one gained a negative reputation points of minus 5,000 points, that was when things would take a nosedive. The king would order the high rankers of the kingdom to hunt you down and kill you. Even if you hid in the beginner zone, the high rankers would ignore the level requirement just to deal with you personally. Lux took note of this matter seriously and decided to never allow himself to fall to that point, so he could avoid inviting trouble to his front door. "We are here," Barca said as he gestured for Lux's group to not make any noise as they traveled the secret trail that he had discovered back when he was searching for ways to infiltrate Baranar's camp. Lux glanced at the orc encampment that was surrounded by a 3-meter-tall stone wall. Several tents, which were made of animal skins, could be seen inside, and there were at least a dozen guards manning the outposts and making sure that everything was in order. With the features of Elysium Compendium, Lux was able to identify the ranks of the enemies, which made him frown. The orc captain as well as the orc guards are all rank 3. Lux rubbed his chin, and it seems that these orc warriors are merely the cannon fodder of their army. I guess this is the custom settings of the Nightmare mode. Among the 12 orcs that were guarding the perimeter of the encampment, there was one wearing a black armor. It was the orc captain, and according to the data shown in the compendium, the captain was at the peak of rank 3. An ordinary rank 3 monster might be weaker than an alpha beast, but its threat level was similar to the kobold sorcerer that Diablo had faced off against in the past. Of course, it was not a problem for Barca, but for them, it was a tough hurdle. Not to mention, the captain's subordinates were also rank 3 monsters, making the situation very tricky. A direct fight is out of the question, Lux thought. Although I don't know how strong Baranar is, there is a possibility that he is at Barca's level. If that is the case, our strongest fighter shouldn't waste his strength in fighting the other mobs. Boss monsters usually had some goons protecting them, especially high-leveled ones. Lux was certain that aside from the 12 orcs guarding the camp, Baranar would still have other subordinates who would aid him in battle. However, Lux didn't know how many there would be. Fortunately, most of the warriors of the stronghold were out patrolling their territory. This greatly reduced the number of monsters that Lux's party had to fight, but it was still a very tricky situation. "What is your plan, Lux?" Barca asked. "Should we charge and fight our way in?" Lux shook his head. He knew that Barca was only testing him. The half-orc was keen on knowing what kind of warrior the half-elf was. "A head-on battle is out of the question," Lux replied. "We are both outmatched in quantity and quality." The half-elf then glanced at the sun on the horizon. It was almost sunset, so a night attack would be the ideal opportunity to create chaos in the camp. "Tell me, Barca, do you know how strong Baranar is?" Lux asked as he glanced at the half-orc beside him. The half-orc crossed his arm over his chest as he pondered. "Baranar is an orc shaman," Barca replied after organizing his thoughts. "He specializes in curses and other spells. If I can get close to him, I will be able to subdue him. But if I can't, then my chances of defeating him are slim." "Orc shaman? That is indeed a troublesome opponent." Lux nodded his head in agreement. It was at that moment when Baranar's information appeared in his mission page. Baranar, Orc Shaman, rank 4 alpha monster. Health, 160,000/160,000. Mana, 272,000/272,000. Strength, 50. Intelligence, 340. Vitality, 200. Agility, 100. Dexterity, 200. Skills: summon elite orc spirit warriors. Envenom, Fear, Frostfire, Life Drain, Soul Shield, Dim Vision, Amplified Damage. Lux scratched his head. The orc shaman's skills spelled trouble. According to the provided information, Baranar could summon 2 elite orc spirit warriors, which were peak rank 3 summons. Although he was confident that Barca could deal with them just fine, the orc shaman's other skills would make things very difficult for the half-orc, especially in Venom, Dim Vision, Amplified Damage, and Life Drain. Lux understood that this mission allowing Barca to accompany him in battle didn't mean that the mission would be smooth sailing. Just by looking at the current hurdle that they had to overcome made him finally understand why 12 people were needed to finish this mission. It was at the level of difficulty in which the power of a single party was not enough to tip the balance in their favor. Fortunately, I have my summons and Echo with me, Lux thought as he formulated a plan of action in his head. The half-elf knew that if he wanted to defeat the first orc warlord in his list, he had to do some careful planning and designate positions to their limited forces in order to deal with a mission that would test their teamwork to its limits.